There is a disease unknown to mankind. Its cause, however, is not understood by anyone and is incurable. This disease is shrouded in mystery. It becomes quite easy to become infected after infection. A rash appears all over the body. Then the skin hardens and becomes like stone, and after a while the body falls apart. As a result of the disease, a person dies, and rumors begin to spread among the people that infected people made a deal with the devil. Families that were infected lost all their influence, and this made their existence incredibly difficult. The disease does not care how powerful a person is. Karen Whit-A was among them. The main character has hair of the same green shade and eyes of the same golden color. This helped to replace the Duchess. The Duke immediately told the tomboy that if she played her role as his late daughter perfectly, she would be able to get everything she ever wanted. Everything would be available to her. The little girl then thought that she was very lucky. She, who had nothing, who was left alone, seemed to have a second chance at a decent life, which could not but please. She didn't quite understand what would happen next. The girl was constantly ridiculed by her brothers and sisters, and the servants didn't pay any attention at all. Despite everything, the beauty tried to move forward to the end. She tried to work hard, because she wanted to keep hope in her heart. A marriage with Duke Hexion was proposed. The lady notes that this is due to Karen's status. An illegitimate child will not inherit anything anyway. The woman learned the truth. She was not just adopted from the street, but was the daughter of a duke. The procession in which the maiden was riding turns out to be too modest. The lady feels sorry for herself that she didn't find out the truth earlier. Now the father was supposed to have a new daughter. The green-haired one feels that she was simply sold, which makes it even more offensive. The woman learned from the maids that Hexion had a terrible scar on his face. Rumors began to spread that he had made a deal with a demon, and she began to think that it was true. There's only one thing left to do, to accept her fate. Karen tries to be as optimistic as possible. After all, her choice is not taken into account. Vita takes things for granted. Perhaps she just needs to start her life completely from scratch. However, the time lost in the duchy cannot be returned. A whole years have passed. A noise is heard outside, which makes the beauty surprised. Something is happening to the carriage. The beauty realizes that it seems they are starting to fall to the ground. The wheels exploded, and minutes later the girl gets up. It's hard for her, because she hit her head on the seat, and there's a streak of blood on her face. Vita doesn't have time to come to her senses, before she's grabbed roughly by the hair, and dragged out into the street. "We found you." The man in blue is smiling. People are lying around. All the guards are dead. The lady screams, asking who they think she is. The blonde chuckles. "You talk too much. As if you were a fake." It becomes increasingly unclear what is happening. Those gathered around the map cannot be knights. Their behavior and speech are rude. She asks a question, clarifying why the strangers are wearing the uniform of knighthood. Vita quickly realizes, as for a person who will soon die. The woman panics. She thought that she would remain useful, even after the birth of a new daughter, because she would help. Entering into marriage, the stranger takes out a sword. "The Duke told you that you have done well until now." A sharp jerk. A second later, the lady lay down next to the others. She doesn't know if she was too naive. She just wanted to get some love. The girl hoped that one day everything would be resolved. She tried to be useful, even if her father never thought that Vita was his real daughter. Lying on the damp ground and feeling the strength leaving her body, the heroine thinks about how much she wants to go back. She wants all emotions to plunge into darkness. A clear voice is heard. "You will come back." There is light all around. The Duchess herself does not understand what is happening. She opens her eyes and gets up. She is sitting on the bed. The green-haired girl doesn't immediately understand what will happen next. She hears the familiar voice of her maid. She is fussing near the window, opening the curtains and letting in the morning rays of the sun. The beauty looks around. She does not understand how this is possible. It would be good to ask why the body suddenly returned to life, because then the sword pierced the heart. The gaze drops down. The scar has also disappeared. The maid turns to the mistress. She reminds that Mr. Paris is returning from the academy in a few days. He spent enough time there. The brunette asks to get ready, preferably as quickly as possible. The woman feels even more lost, because the events are a little confusing to her. Paris, as the Duchess knows, graduated from the academy 2 years ago. The lady was so lost in thought that she didn't hear her assistant address her again. There is another oddity that does not escape the maiden's gaze. Bella wears the same uniform that was changed several years ago, and she is asked about the year. The woman immediately answers, "It is now years since the beginning of the restoration of the great empire." She again asks to hurry and start getting ready as soon as possible. The green-eyed girl freezes in fear. What is happening seems surreal, because she has returned 3 years ago. She does not understand whether she is sleeping, or how this is possible. There will be no options left. After everything that has happened, she will have to accept it and leave it as it is. The beauty understands that even so, a future awaits her too, because when her sister is born, she will instantly become useless to anyone. A rough plan forms in her head before fate plays. but cruel joke and repeats itself again. The heroine plans to escape. She cannot lose hope. The woman feels stuck in reality. Here she is again, as before, tightening her corset to please everyone. She has to put on a beautiful dress just to please others. Step by step, once the preparations are complete, the heroine moves towards the cold gazes. Sitting down at the table, she greets her mother and father. Her gaze moves to her older brother. She also greets him, but for several minutes there is no response, and a heavy silence hangs in the room. As usual, the young man doesn't even look into her eyes while answering. His answer remains as dry as possible. The lady has nothing to be surprised about. It's just a pity that she has to witness this again. The beauty understands that she is not so worried about the situation. It was different before, although Paris had always been like this, as long as the lady remembered him. The little girl tried to stay close, but it didn't give her anything. The green-haired man always gave his sister a cold, an indifferent look. The look was the same as the attitude. If you think about it, the lady spent her energy and nerves to make her own father love her. The whole family must have laughed at her naivety, but from that moment on, everything changed. The woman is tired of the games. She gets up from the table. Something is wrong. She needs to leave for a while to rest and relax a little. Previously, she had to sit at the table for an hour or more, but now she managed to finish it in 10 minutes. She recalls that at this time of year, it was hunting season, and there were also competitions. At that time, ladies presented participants with handmade multicolored tassels and also decorated them with beads and pearls. Usually, gifts were given only to spouses, but there were times when exceptions were made. The beauty understands that she must not arouse suspicion and decides that, as in previous years, she will prepare the decorations, but will not give them to anyone, because that is how it was. Perhaps, this time, the woman will give the brush to the winner of the year. She should quickly go get the materials, and while there is time, engage in self-education. The red-haired woman plans to put her thoughts in order. She went to the library to see what books were left there. Surely, many of them would be useful for development. When the lady returned, she was met by a maid. She shouts at Karen. She shouts that she looked all over, thinking that she had already disappeared somewhere. Accusations are being made. The maids who gathered in the hall, orders because of the mistress. No one allowed her to calmly walk around the estate without asking permission. The beauty remembers how once, when she fell ill, Bella refused to help her. She only asked her to remain calm, because she told the Duke about the poor condition of his daughter. The brunette ordered in a menacing voice not to press on pity, as if she was blaming the little girl for her health problems, a moment she could never forget. That day, the girl apologized a lot. She did not want to be seen as a problem. Such cases happen repeatedly. Each time, the maid did not show herself in the best light. Since Bella has never been kind to the Duchess, even as a child, she decides to pay back in the same coin. It's time to do everything properly, without any hitches. The green-haired woman addresses him calmly, wondering why she can't walk wherever she wants. Surprised, but for just a second, the woman starts yelling, "What are you even allowing yourself to do?" The beauty cannot listen to all the complaints that are being made against her. She orders him to be silent, and a second later, the maid receives a stinging slap in the face. The woman lowers her voice. She shows all her seriousness in a conversation with her. Bella is obliged to show more respect, but she has never done this since childhood. Jumping aside, the maid asks if the lady has lost her mind. She allows herself to do something she never allowed herself to do. The green-haired one chuckles. She only did what she should have done a long time ago. The appeal to the maiden became even more cruel. "Darling, get on your knees and ask for forgiveness. Considering all the problems, she will only be given one chance to atone for her past sins." Very soon the lady was sitting at the table, being served a variety of dishes, her mouth watering as the thought flashed through her head that she had not been allowed to eat something delicious for a long time. At the Duke's estate, the woman usually didn't eat much. She only consumed salads. Anything else made her feel sick, so there was no choice. Right now, the beauty is spearing a piece of meat with her fork. Everything is so unexpected. She has definitely managed to forget how tasty normal food can be. The green-haired woman involuntarily thought again. She herself wondered when was the last time she felt so satisfied. Dangerous, but the lady was not going to remain a puppet. The heroine thought about what she would do. First of all, she would spend her savings on food, and not only, she wanted to open a restaurant or a cozy inn. The idea of becoming an archaeologist comes to mind, however. Not everything is so simple. The lady taps on the table in disappointment. First of all, the beauty must join the Adventurers Guild. She wants to meet Jin as soon as possible, but she doesn't know if he will remember her. The goal remains the same. She is delirious about escaping from the estate, after which a ton of opportunities will open up before her. For the first time, the lady is glad that she devoted herself to her studies. The girl almost always acted as if her life depended on her studies. She studied languages, and even pharmacology. It was difficult for her, but it was worth it. The beauty loved to study the various books in her father's library. They were all needed for her studies, and this this noticeably lifted her spirits. After fights, the little girl often had blood from her nose, because she was hit, but her face also bled, and this happened for the first time, precisely because of her studies. The girl tried constantly. She even surprised the others, because she continued to study late at night, in the morning and in the evening. She was obliged to show herself from the best side. The only thing that kept Vida moving forward was her father's recognition. She hoped that one day the young man would see her abilities and would finally be able to love her. Despite her best wishes, nothing worked out. The man always teased, noticing that his daughter couldn't cope with the simple tasks that were given to her. The gentleman did not forget to throw words around. They can hurt. He considered the girl to be a disappointment in his life. She realized that she was naive and stupid. The green-haired girl couldn't help but be sad. But it all ended the same way. She still couldn't live up to the status of a daughter in the eyes of the Duke. He saw nothing in her. The little girl, despite everything, continued to move forward. Even after disappointment, she saw opportunities, such as taking part in competitions. The next day after the proposal, the heroine went to the store. She arrived very early only to buy fabric for tassels, which is popular. The colors that were shown to the lady were one better than the other. She chose the perfect ones for her father and brother. She immediately asked to wrap everything that she looked at. The beauty, at first, was very happy, and hoping that she would soon give the products, went home. She really tried her best. Another disappointment came unexpectedly. The tassels were never given. Paris accepted a lot of tassels from young ladies, and everyone laughed at his sister. People whispered, realizing that the lady had no one to give the gift to, and even her family had refused the items. That day, Wit was unable to see her father. He did not meet her. The woman again consoles herself with the thought that the man is simply a very busy person. She has come to the store again to buy materials for gifts at the competition. The sales assistant sighs sadly. Unfortunately, she has nothing to please us with. We've already sold out of almost everything, so there are no nice flowers left. The beauty waves it off. The shade doesn't matter to her. She confidently asks to show everything they have left, so she can choose at least something. Fingers glide over the dark fabric, and the thought immediately flashes through my mind. The winner will be in black armor. A brush of this color would be perfect. The woman, without thinking twice, turns to the consultant and calmly asks to wrap up some black fabric, just what she will need for work. The brunette goes behind the checkout counter and nods. She asks if the beauty would like to buy glass beads or pearls, and the choice falls on beads. The woman smiles. Wait a few minutes. Everything will be ready. The lady nods. She blushes a little, because the pleasant attitude towards her person makes the heart beat faster. Feeling better, the heroine lowers her embarrassed gaze and thanks him, and after shopping, heads back to the Duke's estate. The gentleman stands at the window. He watches his daughter return. A memory immediately comes to mind. Paris was talking about his sister. He was worried. Not long ago, a young man asked his father if it was true that nothing had happened, that the girl had seemed to have been replaced. The Duke did not understand why such a remark was made, but he did not notice anything. The green-haired man pretended not to understand whatever it was. It wasn't something worth talking about. He decided not to worry, leaving Vida alone to figure it out on her own. Now the opinion has changed. Every day the behavior becomes more and more illogical. Recently the lady has been behaving unusually. The man called Bella into his office, and became curious about what to do next. He suspected that the maid knew something, and was obliged to report it. The time for the competition had arrived unnoticed. The morning before the hunt had arrived, the lady, fully prepared, descended close to the carriage to head to the place. Bella calls the woman. She mumbles that the carriage is already ready, and also asks to see the lady off, so that nothing happens to her. I just want to help you. The green-haired girl is not so easy to fool. She knows that since her assistant has suddenly become so submissive, she apparently intends to report every step to the Duke. Karen doesn't need help. She just needs to take the handle and go inside. The first step is taken, but for some reason, her heart starts beating wildly. Strangely, a familiar voice is heard. The girl turns around in fear, and sees her father in front of her. She cannot respond to his statement that he is entering. She remains silent. While the man sits down opposite her, thoughts run through the heroine's head. She doesn't know what happened, why the young man would decide to go with her. The woman understands that she is worried about the Duke. She remembers the past. Her father distracts her, asking if she is okay. If everything is bad, I will call a doctor and change your schedule. The green-haired woman asks not to worry. Nothing like this will happen. Everything remains normal. She remembers that the lady was also in the carriage that day. The death happened because of the Duke, who now acts as if nothing happened. He always hides his emotions best. His face remains stony. Voice is heard. Recently you have stopped calling me father, the young man notes with displeasure. Usually when the lady tried to get closer to him, she always called him that. Due respect, nothing more. The little girl remembers very well that every time she turned to her dad, his face was filled with incredible anger. Karen really doesn't look like herself. Her behavior has changed a lot. The beauty smiles, calmly asking what her usual behavior is. The hunting competitions have begun. The forest of Fulheim is the place where real miracles happen. Once every few years real competitions on a grand scale are held there. At the event, the society's ingots and knights who are participating gather. Karen looks around, trying to figure out where the Black Rider is. In dark armor, the hero must stand out. Despite this, the girl cannot find the person she needs. After minutes of searching, she finally notices him. The woman turns around. A strange anxiety appeared inside her. Perhaps the past has remained unchanged after all. This is really something to be afraid of. The beauty examines the dark armor. She wants to approach, but she does not dare to do so first. Would be wonderful if our eyes crossed even for a split second. It would change the situation. Karen calls the Duke. She turns around, but when she turns back, she sees that the knight is gone. She tries to cheer herself up. There is still plenty of time before the end of the hunt. The Duchess will definitely find a chance to meet the person she needs. The beauty turns to her father and asks why he called her. It becomes clear that the knight left precisely because of Vita. The daughter must fully devote herself to her role. He calls her. You have strayed too far from our camp. Let's go back. They headed back. During the competition, the nobles live in tent camps, which are decorated with family coats of arms. The lady was reluctant to go to the tent, but once she agreed to go to the event, she simply had no other choice. Still, just the thought of how the days will pass makes the heroine feel uneasy. She will have to while away the time in a cramped tent alone with these people she hates. The maid leads the mistress, pointing to the place where she will live. Her chambers, as usual, will most likely be one of the smallest. The girl's mother asked me to convey a message to her. Mr. Curran sent a letter. The green-haired girl freezes and turns around in surprise. The man wrote in a letter that he would return as soon as he could, but he did not give an exact date, as he himself did not yet know. The Virgin remembers another event. Curran returned just at the end of the hunt. It happened during the annual hunt. Vita is an outstanding swordsman. Mage, he has mastered magic to perfection. Weapons are his element. He is the second son of the family. The boy had been a nuisance to his sister since childhood, because he disliked her, and just like everyone else in the estate, he never heard the beauty's requests. The girl remembered very well how he always took away her things, mocking her and noticing that she was simply picking them up from the trash, because they all looked terrible. One day, the young man broke his sister's pen, and then only laughed, noting that if the thing was so dear to her, she should collect the fragments and continue writing with them. The very image of Curran made the heroine want to run away. She sighed with displeasure. She blamed herself for forgetfulness. Bella changed the subject, starting to chat about the recent incident with the robbery of the treasury. The lady doesn't want to listen. She turns away and quietly asks to bring at least something, so that she can have a snack. The assistant immediately nods and runs away. The thought still haunted me. The young man would return a week after the end of the official hunt. The situation was remembered, as if it had happened yesterday. The brunette brought the girl a gift, but in reality, it made her feel uneasy, because the gift was a bag with something dead. Curran always knew how to press correctly. He complained that he didn't even receive a thank you for bringing something so valuable. There was nothing left to do but thank. The girl puts her hands down on the table in displeasure, and the papers she accidentally dropped fall to the floor. When she picks one up, it becomes clear that it shows a map of the area, with marks on it. The idea immediately comes to mind to examine everything in detail, but to do this, you can only get it if you take the document with you. The hunt ends at p.m. There is enough time. It's time to go. All that's left is to take a pen with you. The camp is quite boring, and it's not worth staying there, so as not to run into the Duchess. The girl was about to get up when she heard footsteps. Her father's wife appeared on the threshold. Her worst thoughts came true, and her body shuddered. The woman smiles. Her daughter is probably afraid that someone will notice what she is doing. There is silence. Are you really not even going to say hello to me? The green-haired girl doesn't see any point in trying, because the Duchess never liked her anyway. She's sure of it. The woman slaps him sharply, and they ask her to stop, but she gives him another one, noting that no one dares to be cheeky, especially some little girl. In order to avoid contact with Vita any longer, Karen abruptly runs out of the tent. She needs to take a walk. Left completely alone, she sees a forest ahead that beckons. The forest is truly magical. After minutes, she manages to come to her senses. The lady is glad that the pain is not so severe, although the mark on her cheek is noticeable. The gaze stops on something located ahead, a huge stone. It was the one marked on that map. All the inscriptions on it are depicted in an ancient language. The lady studies the hieroglyphs, She has no desire to return to the camp. The thought occurs to her that she should try to read the inscriptions. Sitting down on the ground, the Duchess begins to write notes in a notebook, hoping that one day someone will be able to use them wisely. The green-haired girl is disappointed with only one thing. She wished that she had managed to find such records at the right time. Perhaps then she would have survived. After a while, the beauty finally tore her head away. She looked around. The sunset was beginning. Too much time had passed. It was time for her to go back. The lady quickly gets up and gets ready, and just as she is about to leave, she hears a growl and becomes uneasy. There is definitely someone in the bushes. Dark eyes are visible. A wild animal is located there. The girl should run, but she can't run in uncomfortable shoes, so she slowly takes them off. While she is getting ready to start, the wolf continues to growl and approach. It is scary. She needs to buy at least a little more time. As soon as the shoes leave the ground, the lady rushes away at the same moment. An even louder growl is heard behind her. The predator is much faster than the Duchess. It is clear that the girl was mistaken. She will be easily caught. She is already ready for death. When she bumps into something hard, a soft voice is heard, and her eyes are covered with a cold hand. The wolf flies away. His body remains lifeless on the grass. Opening his eyes, Karen sees a knight in dark armor. It is a great honor for him to meet. Veda blinks her eyes in surprise. She doesn't understand how such a person ended up in the forest at such a late hour. The man asks if the beauty is okay. She's been through a lot of stress. The green-haired girl assures that everything is fine. She cannot help but thank her for being saved from the clutches of a wild animal. The girl's family was looking for her. The lady should return to the camp, because night should fall very soon. The knight clarifies what brought the soul into the thicket of the forest far from the competition. To tell the truth, I just felt like I wanted to go for a walk. The girl smiled nervously, and they understood her, because everyone sometimes wants to be alone with themselves. The man points his finger at the road. If she goes there, the girl will almost immediately get to her camp. It seems they are not going to see her off. The huntsman is going to look around the forest, but will visit the Duchess later. She should leave quickly so that everything goes well. Suddenly, Karen remembers her brush. She decides to ask if the knight will accept her gift. She could not give the thing to her father or brother. The man doesn't understand why the brush would be given to him. The lady has no reason for this. They don't even know each other. This impulse is pointless. The beauty is silent. She cannot tell the truth. Although it is all about memories, the image of the warrior is preserved in the heroine's head. She remembers him from a past life. It is also impossible to say that the young man will win the competition. This would destroy the entire concept. Only the lady knows the near future. With a sweet look, the girl tries to put pressure, noting that refusing the sincerity of a well-disposed acquaintance could discredit a knight's honor. The knight nods. As much as he doesn't want to admit it, the woman is right. He nods and extends his hand, asking to put on the tassel. His expression is not visible behind the armor. Confused look runs over the man. The lady asks again, and is immediately given an answer. Real aristocrats themselves put tassels on their chosen ones. The beauty opened her mouth to object, but she truly had nothing to say, so she exhaled and came closer with a humble look. The woman carefully puts on the gift. I will pray for your victory, she promises, and in that case, the gentleman will dedicate it only to Karen. Most likely, a search party has already been sent for the lady. It's not that hard to guess, as it's really getting late. The man calmly asks the girl to come back. He has already offered to go to the tents several times. Time is flying by. There is nothing left to do but turn around and leave. Before actually setting off down the path, the lady looks at the warrior one last time. They will meet again, even more than once. Near the Duke's chambers, Bella meets a girl who has been searched all over, and it seems that this will cause big trouble. The Duke, it turns out, is beside himself with rage. The woman ignores her assistant. Egg, on the contrary, asks that more comfortable clothes be prepared for her, since a dress is not a suitable option for hunting. The brunette is left with a surprised expression on her face. Karen goes inside and apologizes for the intrusion, and her father immediately orders everyone to leave the chambers. Only the elder and younger Vita remain inside. Lowering his voice, he asks what exactly his daughter is doing. Her behavior is having too much of an impact on the others. Karen calmly explains that she decided to go for a walk and got a little lost. She really didn't mean for it to happen that way. Such words cause pent anger. The father asks where it was ever seen that the Duke's daughter walked through the forest so openly and freely, and she even forced the knights to go on her search. Rough voice clarifies what Karen was doing in the forest for almost the entire day. She certainly was fulfilling her duties as the Duchess of the family. The beauty did what she thought was right, but the gentleman didn't like this answer, and he abruptly threw the candlestick at the wall, causing her to shrink in fear. The daughter became bold. It seemed that she was smart, but turned out to be dumber than a rock. Bella told about how someone raised a hand against her. This goes beyond all limits. Virgo notes that it is His Excellency who will have problems if Karen disappears. He smirks. It is not true. It is you who will starve to death, or it will be like before. Vita must remember her place. She should stay away from anything that could put the family in an awkward position or get her thrown out. The Duke expresses his hope that the lady understood him, and if she did, then she can leave his chambers. The Duchess tries to remain calm. She only needs to hold out for a year. The knight is still in the forest. He hasn't managed to get out yet, but he feels like he's getting worse. The problem is spreading too quickly. The young man tries to reach for the medicine. He always carries it with him. But then the brush lights up, and then the pain suddenly subsides. He understands that there is something interesting in the gift. The Duchess is sitting in her room. Bella brought her the dress that her father picked out. She is almost immediately driven away. Fatigue is too much to allow her to think freely. Her gaze stops on the notebook. The beauty couldn't help but quickly distract herself from what was happening. She decides to take notes about the obelisk. The lady recalls what she managed to read on the huge stone. At first there was an inscription from the creator. He hoped that one day someone would get to his notes. The forest's history is unique, so the man hoped until the very end that the time he spent studying, it would not be wasted. He wanted the pages to benefit others. Further, on the same obelisk, the lady discovered a small excerpt from a fairy tale unknown to her, which spoke of spirits that lived deep in the forest. In the thicket itself, if you believe what is written, there is a treasury that belongs to an ancient people, and there are hidden riches that have no end or edge. The girl was most interested in the path to the gnome village. It's funny, if she has the opportunity, she will definitely explore the entire area. The image of a predator comes to mind, and it becomes uneasy, because it is clear that the lady almost died. She is afraid that the future has begun to change its course. Everything is not at all like in the past. The lady does not want to die again. She will try to avoid death as long as possible. She thought that she would never go to the forest. Logical desires and the desires of the heart differ. As soon as you close your eyes, your body is transported to those very spaces with the obelisk in the clearing. Vita is distracted from her thoughts. The next day arrives, and the blonde calls her friend to find out why she is not involved in the conversation as usual. Lady Alia, as usual, is looking for a scandal, which suits her image, because she is the most ardent and famous scandal maker in noble circles. The gaze turns to the one sitting nearby. Her name is Lid, and in 6 months she will die from a mysterious disease. No one will be able to find a way to cure her. The green-haired woman wonders what will happen if she tells about her imminent death. Perhaps the lady will stop wasting her time and do something useful. It's not clear, but for some reason the lady herself is behaving incorrectly. She herself should behave differently and start saving her own skin, in particular from her own father. My gaze is once again drawn to the forest. It constantly beckons, and I finally made the decision to go there at least one more time, but it's not clear how this will turn out. Surely everything will be as before. If you leave, people will stop gossiping behind your back, and these rumors will not reach the Duke's ears. None of what is happening matters. When the lady is asked, she replies that she has urgent matters to attend to, so she must leave the room. There was silence in the forest until the cloaked figures approached the obelisk. They had been searching for this stone for a long time, and now, finally, there was a reason to be proud of their acquisition. What the reports were written about turned out to be true. However, they still did not know what needed to be found, and there is also a very disconcerting fact: the obelisk is gradually beginning to collapse. The woman reached that very place. She did not forget to take a notebook with her, in which she is going to write down the last part that she needs to decipher. There is very little left. She believes in her own strength. Taking out a pen, the beauty quickly begins to rewrite everything that is necessary. She does this, but suddenly hears some rustling sounds. The story seems to repeat itself. The last time after this, she almost died at the hands of a predator. The eyes reflect true fear. The lady turns and looks closely. It takes a second to realize that this is something else, a feeling as if someone is watching her, most likely a person. The green-haired girl understands that she should have been quieter, but instead, she made too many sounds. It disrupted everything. There are restless thoughts in her head, and most importantly, what to do. The lady is called. A hand touches her shoulder, causing her to jump immediately. The Dark Knight immediately steps away and apologizes for frightening her. This was not his true desire. The lady must be scared. The man asks to accept his deepest apologies. He did not expect such a reaction. Waving it off, the heroine asks the question, "What are you doing here at such a late hour?" The warrior confesses, "I saw you by chance." The lady really did go into the forest alone again, although she promised not to do so. The realization comes that all this time she was really being followed on her heels. The event is about to begin, and the girl doesn't understand. In that case, the young man is required to be in the hunting grounds. He is expected to be the winner this year. Fear penetrates to the bones. Perhaps the beauty changed the knight's future too. The hero reveals something that is impossible to expect. To tell the truth, I'm more interested in you. Giggling nervously, The woman asks if the promise to dedicate the victory to her is cancelled. Desire alone is not enough to defeat the great warriors of the squad. The young man apologizes and promises that he will still win. He is sorry for disturbing the peace. The green-haired girl assures that everything is fine, however, she just needs to manage her time better. The brunette seems to ignore the attempts to push him into the competition. He declares that he wanted to see the obelisk, but if it weren't for the reminder from a friend, he would have definitely forgotten about it. Still, something doesn't work out. The hunt is held every year, but the knight only became interested in the stone after so much time. He first needed to come up with something less banal. It turned out that previously, it was believed that the obelisk's only purpose was to guide travelers, but everything changed. The warrior noticed that Karen had previously taken careful notes, copying symbols. The young man is interested in only one thing: in the beauty, not only read, but also decipher the ancient language. He never thought to doubt her abilities, but he is still surprised. Few can understand such ancient scriptures. The green-haired girl hopes that she can trust and tell the man the truth. She exhales and, gathering her strength, says that she understands the language a little. An acquaintance asks to be let in on what has already been deciphered. The lady doesn't see the point in this, since there's nothing special there anyway, but nods in agreement. The end of the writing said that since the man had deciphered the story, it meant he found it all quite fascinating, and it also meant that the man wanted to explore the forest, just like the master once did. The man spent many years traveling around the world, and he saw a lot. He enjoyed this activity. He enjoyed meeting new people and seeing new places. Despite everything the young man had encountered, the thing that brought him the most joy was writing down all his knowledge on a huge stone in the forest. He understood that he would leave a part of himself to people from the past. The author left a message, saying that if the reader finds all the obelisks, he will definitely become a better storyteller, and perhaps he will be able to understand that the tale is a lie, and that there is a hint of something more in it. The most important advice that the master left was to never anger the master of the forest. The knight listens and remarks that he wants to know the rest of the story. The man asks the lady if she knew that there was an obelisk in the thicket, and not just one. The lady found out everything thanks to the map, but was only able to get there with the help of hunting competitions. The lady has no reason to continue searching. It could be life-threatening, despite all the interest she feels. It turns out that the friend knows where the rest of the stones are located, and the green-haired girl is offered to meet twice a month just to find everything, but the beauty doesn't even know what to answer. The man assures that he will be responsible for security, but Karen continues to refuse. If anyone should be wary of, it's him. She shouldn't be around him for long. Beta can't help but ask why they are so interested in her. It feels like they've been fooling her, while they continue to try to persuade her to do the obvious. He remembers that the lady gave him a brush made with her own hands. The only thing that changed that day was the little thing. The Duchess does not know the whole truth. That evening, the gift noticeably eased the symptoms of the disease, so the knight took it upon himself to find the source of the power. He asks questions. "You made the brush yourself, didn't you?" The woman wants to yell at him and force him to tell the truth, that he simply didn't like the gift, but instead she smiles sarcastically and nods, and the conversation has to continue. The warrior thinks that the lady used some special materials. The answer is negative. In fact, the materials were bought in a very ordinary store. After a few minutes, the heroine is almost boiling over. It seems that her friend didn't like the thing, but she assures that there is no point in worrying. She didn't curse it. The man understands that he did something wrong. He begins to justify himself. In fact, his heart fluttered at the very thought that the beauty cared about him. He was truly pleased to know this. There was a certain misunderstanding between the two. The fact is that there was no one to give the brush to. The warrior was nearby and saved his life, so the decision was made spontaneously. The green-haired girl assumes that this conversation can be considered over. She asks for her forgiveness and is already bowing before leaving, but again she has to stop halfway. The man tries to say that his heart is really fluttering. It can't take it anymore. The girl screams. She asks him to stop, because all this is starting to cross all boundaries of what is permissible. The heroine asks her to understand that everything happened unintentionally. The brush was given as a gift, as a token of gratitude. It was not directly intended. Without giving up, the warrior asks a reasonable question. Who in their right mind would make a brush of precisely this black color? The young man thought that the gift was made specifically for him, but it seems he was mistaken. The young man plays on her pity, but for the lady he is a mysterious character. All that is known about him is that he wants to win the competition. He will have to make an effort, even if the future is predetermined. There are still a few hours left until the end of the hunt, and even if the hero returns there now, he will still have to make up for lost time. There is no way around it. The Dark Knight looks like he has no intention of setting out on a journey. He stands and stares at his companion, continuing to hope that they will set out in search of the obelisks. The green-haired girl solves the problem. She says, "If you win, so be it. I will give you my time. She is right, because otherwise there is no way to make the friend leave the forest and go to the event. The young man asks again in surprise, but it's clear that this option suits him perfectly. Giving them a day together sounds like a very tempting idea. Time has passed, the competition is coming to an end. Everyone is angry at the knight who caught too many creatures in just 1 hour, while beating absolutely everyone. Heron thinks that this is impossible, and she has just gone crazy. Nothing else happened. Suddenly the girl is distracted by her father's voice. He came with her brother, just as everything ended. The man suggests that they all return to their quarters together. The beauty doesn't understand what kind of day it is. Everything irritates her, because what's happening is draining her last strength, of which there isn't much left. Not everyone knows the knight in black armor. The lady wanted to know who he is. I can say that he is a very excellent hunter. You can't take that away from him. The Duke calmly replies, essentially, you shouldn't get involved with him. When he says this, he means it. The smartest thing is to stay on the sidelines. There's no point in bringing trouble on him, something that you won't be able to wash away later. The girl sadly asks again. She didn't think that she should be wary of anyone, because in her case, it seems strange. Then the father smiles. His facial expression noticeably changes. The green-haired man notes that in the case of his daughter, on the contrary, the acquaintance will be useful to her, something she shouldn't refuse, and the lady becomes even more curious about what kind of person he is. The next day arrives. People have gathered. The time has come that everyone has been waiting for so much. It is time to announce the winner. The results are truly impressive. In the new year they are different. The man shouts that he will now introduce the one who caught the most prey, namely the debutant Duke Hexion Milate Rio. The Duchess immediately freezes. Everything comes together. It becomes terribly unpleasant. The maiden remembered the agreement that was discussed in the family. The young man claims to become the beauty's husband. In just 3 years, whispers begin around. Many believe that the knight is cursed. His Excellency does not take his prize. He goes somewhere. The Grand Duke heads to the spectator stands. It becomes clear what he needs there. The woman realizes in time that she needs to retreat. She asks the others to make way. She urgently needs to get out. She does not have time to successfully escape when a calm voice is heard. The lady was right. There was no way she could avoid the conversation. There was no way out but to stay put and calmly ask what happened, why the young man decided to approach. The knight suggests dropping the formalities, and he feels sad at the mere thought that the lady could have forgotten about their agreement. They made a deal, and there is no turning back. In his hands is the trophy, which the Duke finally picked up. The gold shines. The man kept his promise. He hands over the victory to the one who wanted it. The girl examines the item. The design is unique, so she stutters a little, but she can't refuse it. No matter what, the heroine doesn't see the point in receiving the prize that was being discussed. It's time to end the event, and it's best to do so on a good note, namely with the words of the winner. His Excellency is asked to step onto the stage. He says goodbye to Karen. As soon as Vita is left alone, an acquaintance runs up to her. She notices that her friend is probably experiencing incredible happiness. It cannot be otherwise, especially in such a case. Everyone around was surprised by Milate Rio's impulse. It was such an honor. Even the blonde was taken aback when the knight went to the Duchess. It was as if everything happened in slow motion. The girl doesn't want to interfere in something that isn't her business, however. Rumors about the great hero's illness must have reached Vita. This can't help but be disconcerting. Something is still wrong to some extent. The green-haired girl presses Aaliyah with words. She notes that her words are completely inappropriate, considering that she herself praised the knight who ultimately shamefully lost the competition. Immediately, innocent laughter is heard. If that man had really won, everyone would have seen the award ceremony. But in the end, only the Grand Duke was awarded, because he deserved it. Dahlia breaks down. She screams, asking how they dare to make fun of her. She seems to be acting arrogantly, because Milate Rio gave her his trophy. The blonde deliberately draws attention to herself, and the situation, there are no words to describe it. Leaning closer, the girl asks, is the substance they supply you with really that effective? Jumping aside and completely horrified, the beauty asks what her friend is allowing herself to do. She certainly didn't like this kind of attitude, and how could she have liked it? The woman is right in what she said. On the eve of her death, she learned that Alia was secretly buying opium, and in just a year, her growing addiction would drive the Marquis and their entire family into bankruptcy. The lady is only in the initial stages. We can't let this develop into an addiction. It would be better to come to her senses before it's too late. It would be better to think about her father and his condition. Besides all this, my friend advises me not to make everything public apparently. Such simple rules of etiquette also need to be explained. The girl is waiting for an answer. Of course, the green-haired girl, in a sense, was ashamed of herself for bringing the lady to a terrible state. But after all this was only for her own good. not for evil purposes, so everything would be fine. Most likely in the future, there will be no more conflicts between these two. It remains only to hope for the best. The time has come for the Grand Duke to deliver his victorious speech. Hexion doesn't say much. He just notes that it was a mere trifle for him, after which his lordship leaves, while the head of the event tries to assume that the man was just overtighter. After the event, a banquet was scheduled. The beauty was tired. Events were changing. Compared to what happened in her past life, she could not even imagine that she would meet her husband completely by chance. The father notices that the Duke liked his daughter, but also asks when they met. The explanation is quite simple: I just gave him my brush. The woman harbors hope that what happened will not bring their engagement date. Closer, there are too many thoughts in her head. It seems the flow of time has been disrupted, and now fate is changing. His lordship was about to drink another glass of wine when he was informed of an arriving guest. His daughter, standing nearby, had no idea who had decided to come into the chambers. The brunette who enters the room answers the question posed to him from the doorway. He has no questions for the Duke. He has come to see Karen. The beauty asks in surprise if they know each other. The words fly out faster, so she has time to think about the situation. It is obvious that it is Hexion in front of her. They have seen each other before. The young man smiles. Am I really that unrecognizable without armor? The lady is hurting feelings again, and at this rate, very soon there will be nothing left of his heart. The manner of speech has not changed, but the lady blushes. She imagined the man differently. The members of the Witt family are not lacking in beauty, but the guy is on a completely different level. Rumors have always said that the young man is ugly, and it is better not to mess with him. But for some reason, the rumors contradict his real appearance. It is considered almost absurd. Virgo tries to calm herself down. She only gets wound up. Karen smiles back. I can't recognize you for a simple reason. This is the first time I see you without any armor. The brunette extends his hand and asks to agree to a short walk. He sincerely hopes that the lady will not refuse. The lady's father examines the Duke. He does not see any hidden intentions in this. The beauty extends her hand in agreement and nods. She just needs to understand what will happen if she spends more time with someone she didn't think she would see. Everything becomes more complicated. The beauty's father stops his lordship. He asks for just one favor: to return his daughter to him before it gets dark. Otherwise bad rumors might start, and that would not be in his favor at all. The man promises that he will be careful. They will take a little walk, and at the same time have a conversation. In the future, the young man asks not to pester him with stupid wishes. Deva had never heard anyone speak to her father like that. The brunette was honest. He didn't like Vita, so he didn't show even a drop of due respect. The young man hopes that he has become at least a little interesting, but it seems that nothing has changed. He notes that he wishes that they would address each other less formally. Hexion will be happy if he is addressed by name. That will be best. The lady does not know what to answer, because she understands that this is not quite what she wants. The brunette stared at his companion, greatly embarrassing her. He would have no choice but to agree to the request. The lady wanted there to be no misunderstandings between them. Wonder if the girl will keep her promise. She nods. How could it be otherwise? Of course the hero will be given some of her free time. They will spend it well. There was no choice. The beauty herself agreed. If only she had remembered earlier, she would never have gotten involved with him. Unfortunately, her memories were as if in a fog. The man's first appearance in society caused a stir, and the entire empire was swept by rumors about the mysterious Duke, who hid his hand behind his armor, as if he had a secret. Rumors of the curse had likely spread, and the false Duchess Karen, who had been sold as a slave, had become an even bigger problem in this context. There were also those who spoke out against the marriage. Duke Witt was the only one who longed for the death of his own daughter. He was the only one who hoped that he would never see her again. The young lady is distracted from her thoughts. She looks at him in surprise, and then asks again. The man has frightened all the thoughts in her head, practically ruining everything. When the lady declares that she is fine, the hero notices that in fact she is lying. He himself is no better, yet the gentleman does not understand why a headstrong man becomes timid in front of his father. The young man assumes that the beauty has done something wrong. Of course, there is no other logical explanation for her behavior. Karen feels irritated. No one has the right to interfere in other people's affairs, especially when the matter is directly related to another person's family. For a second, the green-haired girl wishes that the man would remain silent again and stare at her. Then everyone would be fine. The brunette seems to be trying to read her thoughts. It can be seen in his gaze. Suddenly a question is heard. Why are you looking at me so fiercely? Don't worry, I can't read minds. Changing the subject, the hero asks if they will be able to meet sometime later. The woman suggests meeting in a week. Kieran returns next week. If he spends time with the Duke, he won't even get to see his brother. The brunette clarifies, it turns out we will see in exactly days. If that is the lady's wish, he does not dare to object. This only plays into her hands. The option sounds excellent. When they were about to leave, Hexion asked for a notebook with transcripts and offered to bring snacks. He would do the same. The woman doesn't understand. She doesn't really know how to cook. The Duke asks her not to worry, assuring her that he doesn't know how to cook either anyway. They will try to do something they've never done before. Perhaps in the future, all the cooking techniques will come in handy. There is no reason to be afraid to try something new. The speech is putting pressure on the girl's consciousness. She has no other choice. The lady thinks that her friend is quite strange. She refuses to the last. She would not refuse a tea party, instead of arranging a full-fledged picnic. The young man wanted to conquer the beauty. He promises that he will try to do everything in the best possible way, in which case, it is worth promising that everything down to the crumb will be eaten, as it should be. The promise to prepare the best snack possible will be fulfilled. The green-haired girl nods in agreement, and with this, they make a small agreement. Hexion remembers something interesting. He allowed himself to be called by name, however. He was not given such an honor. This is nonsense. No one forbids him to address as Karen. Vita explains that she can call her whatever she wants. She doubts that the Duke wants to know her true name. Besides, it is nothing more than an empty sound that does not mean anything. Of course, the man knows the name, but he wants to hear something else. He smiles slightly. Don't you understand what I want to hear from your lips? Since the girl began to live in the guise of Vita, her true name lost its meaning, but even so, the heroine has no right to be called the Duke's real daughter. If the name is accepted, then the Adele that has been kept in the heart for so long will disappear forever. She does not want to forget that little orphan who lived in the dark alleys of the city. The woman wants to avoid the awkwardness of the conversation, but everything seems to be working against her. Once, in childhood, Huron also wanted to know the truth, but never achieved anything. Hexion nods calmly. He has no right to press, so he decides that the topic should be closed. They will see each other again very soon, perhaps even sooner than in a week as agreed. The lady is thanked for agreeing to the selfish proposal. It means a lot to the gentleman. He is happy to have had the honor of talking to her. The man knows that they will see each other at the evening banquet. He has a feeling as if he was bewitched. Those feelings do not disappear. It all began at that first meeting. A beautiful brush remains in my hands. It continues to heal. It not only alleviated the symptoms, but also increased the time between attacks, and no medication was needed for hours. There is a sense of calm around Karen, but at the same time, there is a lingering feeling, as if they have met before confused, and does not go away. However, it is impossible to find answers to questions. An attack begins suddenly. The body shakes, and this becomes incredibly painful. The man remembers the image of Vita. He cannot wait for their next meeting. Karen is getting ready for the banquet. There were maids around her until her father ordered them to leave. He asks what the two were talking about when they went into the forest. He did not like the Grand Duke. They discussed the upcoming meeting. Nothing more. And then they parted. The gentleman's behavior was strange usually. He didn't care about anything other than diligent behavior. The woman is extremely embarrassed to bother her with pressing problems. The reaction is worse than ever. The young man asks why his daughter blushed so much when she remembered Hexion. The question is again heard about what the couple was talking about most likely. They did not limit themselves to a simple conversation. Given Mil Atrio's relationship with Wit, he orders an immediate response. I'm afraid I have nothing to say to you. Karen pulls herself together and answers calmly. This throws the gentleman off track. Because his daughter had never spoken like that before, she was afraid to allow herself too much. Having turned away, the girl no longer dares to return. She is scared. It is obvious what expression he has on his face, even if she does not see it. Hexion said that he does not like Adele's father. She agrees with him. The Archduke despises Vita, while he, on the contrary, is wary since the lady has secured support. She has the right to become a little bolder. The green-haired girl does everything to fulfill her promise, however. She is not obliged to report every step she takes, just as there is no reason to continue listening to insults. Of course, it is clear that the impulse was provoked only because you were lucky. This does not mean anything. A lady has no right to speak out against her family. Her brother comes into the room and calmly asks how Karen has the right to speak to her father so rudely. In recent days, she's been behaving strangely in general, worse than usual. Harris reports that everyone is looking for the gentleman in the banquet hall. Adele breathes a sigh of relief. She is happy that she was able to get rid of the problems in time. Before leaving, the Duke asks her to come on time. The beauty doesn't want to go anywhere, but even so, she's not given a choice if she doesn't make it. There will be problems again. The woman wants to take a walk, at least a little. There is a rustling sound behind her. Her eyes widen with fear. The woman turns around and looks around. There is no one around. It doesn't make things any easier. She still feels a little uneasy. Several strong, built men in black hoods emerge from behind the tents. Karen is afraid that they have come for her, and she should hurry and run to the banquet hall. Turning sharply to leave, Vita realized with disappointment that the path to the event was blocked. All she could do was try to calm down. because everything seemed to be going well. It's scary that life will end again. If they attack all at once, people will definitely notice, because the squad will definitely not attack at the same time, just to save themselves. Turning around, the woman quickly runs away. She is glad that at least the path into the forest was not blocked. It is getting dark outside, and in the thicket there are many places where you can hide from strangers. There is a high risk of encountering a wild animal, but if everything is done correctly, it will be possible to use people in hoods as bait for animals. The green-haired girl runs confidently. Even if her legs are tired, she knows the forest paths. Because she spent enough time there, she will not allow herself to be dealt with easily anymore. The sun set. The pursuers lost sight of the lady. It seemed to them that she would not move from fear, but it turned out that she was not lacking in cunning and agility. It was decided not to continue the pursuit, but instead to turn back. The girl stops and tries to catch her breath. Her heart is beating wildly. The beauty has finally broken away from her pursuers. She has gone deep into the forest. You should be glad that you managed to survive. Your hair was left in disarray, and the shawl was also lost. Finding the lost thing could be a problem. The woman sees a bright blue light in the distance. She follows forward and suddenly realizes that it comes from an obelisk located deep in the forest. Her eyes widen in surprise. At first it seemed like paint, but then it became clear. But this was something special. The inscriptions began to look more noticeable than in the daytime. The first part was different from what Karen had seen before. The inscriptions imprinted on the stone suddenly changed. The beauty does not understand at all how this is possible, as if a miracle had happened, and this had a strong impact. The girl happily realizes that she can decipher what was written once again. She quickly begins to translate, and with each word, an even more confident smile spreads across her face. Someone appeared behind her. The lady was frightened, but she understood that she could have guessed that of course it would be His Grace the Duke. He always appears nearby, and at the most unexpected moments. The man is asked why he was in the forest. It turns out he saw Adele, who was heading to a dangerous place late at night, so he followed her. The brunette didn't think they would meet before the appointed time. He should have told the girl, but now she makes him a little sad about what's happening. Hexion is sad about many things. It should irritate him, but it seems that the boy never sees the problem. The girl notices something else. The man's hand does not move at all. Rumor has it that if you see the Duke's hand, you won't survive. They say that it was the palm that was connected with the cruel betrayal. Noticing his gaze, the young man asks a question. The green-haired girl didn't want to seem rude, but she was genuinely interested. It turned out that she was allowed to do anything. The hero took the heroine's hand and gently pressed it against himself. The lady freezes in horror. She begins to realize that her hand is more like a stone. It feels very strange. The brunette considers his illness a curse. The only thing that interests him is whether the beauty is afraid. On the contrary, she should avoid such things. The Duchess exhales. She does not quite understand what she should answer. She has to admit that the girl isn't really sure, but every time she's with Hexion, she feels very comfortable and at ease, something she doesn't usually experience. The brunette grins and changes the subject, deciding to ask if the inspection of the tombstone is finished. The woman is a little angry because the question is being avoided, but she also wants to talk about the obelisk. There is a lot that has not yet been verified. The content is different from the previous one. It is all quite mysterious, considering that it certainly should not be like this. Hexion shows a desire to watch how the lady will decipher everything. He just wants to know more. Adele nods and asks to sit on the stone behind. The young man watches the lady closely. He does not understand why he feels so good next to her. He even allowed her to touch him, although any other person would have cut off his hand long ago. It's strange, but when the beauty touched the gloves, her numb fingers definitely felt it. The lady was somehow connected with the dreams that began a week ago. A feeling of déjà vu is growing inside my heart, which does not give me peace. Adele is probably hiding some secrets that are yet to be discovered. The Duchess suddenly laughs. The brunette joins the conversation. I sit and wait, but you exclude me from the conversation again. This is unacceptable. I am making you sad again, am I not? In any case, it turns out that the heroine has deciphered almost everything. She is going to read an excerpt from what is written on the stone. Of course, the conversation turns to the forest. Fulheim is said to become more dangerous at night. Writing appears thanks to fairy dust. The master of the forest is mentioned repeatedly, and the aura in the forest has changed. The writer discovered an unusual thing, but in the moment of his curiosity, unfortunately, he lost it, and this could not help but irritate him. The man did his best to find it, but ultimately failed, so he made an inscription on the tombstone, which can only be seen on a dark night. It would be bad if the world knew the truth. because then a person's life would be in danger. Anyone can come into the forest at night to find out the truth, but if a person is a villain, then this will only dig his own grave. Heron explains that another line was also discovered below, but it is quite difficult to decipher since part of the stone is damaged. Hexion agrees that the story is strange, and it worries him, but he wants to ask if it's fun to decipher ancient texts. The girl asks again, and I have to explain. From the outside, it looks like she's truly enjoying every minute she spends on hieroglyphs. It seems that this is true. The heroine admits that she really enjoys everything she does, and it is truly close to her spirit to do such things in complete silence. The brunette clears his throat slightly, thinking that when his companion smiles, she truly looks wonderful. The sparkle in her eyes attracts attention and makes him want more. Hearing what was said, the maid ungrimaced with displeasure. She immediately clarified whether the Duke was feeling okay, because he was talking nonsense. I just said what I thought. There is a silence. Milate Rio constantly makes one feel at ease. Without realizing it, the Duchess understands that she should be more vigilant. The brunette believes that they should return separately. It is worth remembering that the banquet should have already ended at such a late hour. They should not be seen together. When a young man finds out that a beauty is worried, he immediately changes his mind. We should still be together. If we use me as an excuse, won't your situation get better? Every time the Virgo forces herself to be left in debt, without direct consent, and it is so clear that in fact she does not mind having someone she knows next to her, it will help her. Next week, the couple sets out to search for more tombstones, and is offered the chance to stay overnight to learn as much as possible, with other trusted people accompanying them, of course. The beauty unexpectedly agrees. For the sake of not seeing Curran for at least one more day, the lady agrees to go even to the ends of the earth. Of course, she will first need her father's permission. It sounds doable. The hero immediately notices this. He will inform the Duke himself, because there is no need to bother the lady with something that will only bring her a bad mood. This brings joy. The girl smiles and thanks with all her heart. For her it is a relief, because she was not sure whether she would be able to convince her father. He is always against any action. The green-haired woman plans to make thorough preparations immediately upon returning to the residence. On this note they said goodbye and returned back to the venue. In the morning, Bella justifies herself by saying that she wanted to wake the lady, but the Duke asked her not to bother her, so as not to listen to an obvious conspiracy. The heroine forces the maid to shut up. Indignation raged inside. I wanted to scream, because Archduke Milatrio had been waiting outside for more than an hour. The assistant herself was surprised, because even as a little girl, the lady had never gotten up so late. The woman asks him to stop mumbling and help her get ready. The lady doesn't understand why Hexion came. They agreed to meet next week, not earlier. Miss turns to the maids. I need something that can be put on quickly. She understands that she cannot waste any more time. She remembers the words that they can see each other a little earlier than the appointed time. The woman doesn't understand why everything happened at that precise moment. When her face is in a terrible state, she tries to calm down. She needs to greet the guest. As she goes down, Adele hears the conversations of the courtiers, all of whom are afraid that they will suddenly be infected with a curse, since the new arrival is considered sick. The woman interrupts the idol. She notes that it is not worth spreading such rumors, especially when there is a guest in the castle. Bella tries to justify herself, but she is not given a single chance. Request is immediately received to convey to the butler that he should ensure appropriate punishment for all those involved in the incident. Shouts are heard, and a request to reconsider. Many immediately notice that they must have been out of their minds. Not listening, madam. Leave. I no longer wish to waste my time on something so worthless. The lady greets Hexon, and immediately apologizes for being late. The brunette smiles, and assures him that he didn't wait long, although this is an obvious lie. Yuri's show a hint of worry. Your face is haggard. The beauty says she slept well, but keeps quiet about the fact that she constantly has nightmares. The girl asks if the servant who arrived was disturbed. Hexion asks again if his friend heard any rumors. In fact, he had long been accustomed to this attitude. Being the one who can punish all gossips, the man completely ignores them. No matter what words are spread about him, he has a title and power granted by none other than the emperor himself. In any case, the Virgo does not want to get closer. Their relationship will end next week. She does not want to tie herself to a strange role. The lady decides to return to the agenda. She asks a very reasonable question, deciding to find out why the young man came all this way and why he stopped at the estate. In a calm voice, the acquaintance asks if his lady would like to get married. Such an unexpected and unperturbed proposal makes the beauty gasp. There is silence in the room. The girl did not expect that something like this could happen to her, so she will need time to come to her senses a little. The brunette touches the lady's cheek with his finger. It seems like you are being treated badly here. Understanding the situation, Adele pretends not to understand what is being discussed. I'm fine. The green-haired girl doesn't want the hero to think about something that doesn't exist. On the contrary, it irritates her, she turns away abruptly. She no longer has the strength to look him in the eyes. Millie Trio had long noticed the strange behavior. The lady trembled every time the Duke's name was mentioned. When she asked to postpone the meeting, she trembled all over. It all fits together, because for several days the lady stubbornly tried to hide her bruise under a layer of makeup. She wanted to deceive, not to show the true appeal to her. Adele's father always speaks disrespectfully, but only when it concerns his daughter, while the Duchess looks at him, as if he were a servant, nothing more. The last proof the young man needed, he received upon arriving at the estate. The Duke's excuse for why the beauty was not at the banquet was not enough. The injury could not have been sustained in the forest. The man calmly asks the beauty to stop justifying people with lies. There is no need to be afraid of your father. If you marry me, I will be able to protect you. Calmly touching the lady's hand, the young man looks into her eyes. He can give her everything the beauty desires. He swears that he will protect and guard her until the end of her days. The woman doesn't understand, so she asks additional questions. She wants to know what benefit the Lord will get from the marriage he is proposing, but something doesn't work out. A smile on his lips. The fact that you will be with me is more than enough. It turns out that he does not need anything else. The girl will be able to act freely. No one will limit her in any way. Stepping back, the beauty confidently refuses. She is happy that she received an offer, but prefers to continue living as she is, without changing anything and without going anywhere. The lady doesn't see what will change, even if she agrees, although at least if the knight had protected the woman, she wouldn't have been killed in that carriage in her past life. The woman doesn't understand whether her safety will be guaranteed in the future, because even at the hunting banquet they were in great danger. It was difficult to avoid problems. The knight was the only person who extended a helping hand. I want him to remain a savior, but everything will be destroyed if I have to bear the burden of Karen all my life. Asking for forgiveness for her refusal, the beauty calmly explains that she does not wish to be a burden to his lordship, and she thanks him for his concern for her person. If there is nothing more to say, the lady asks to go back to her place and to be left alone, to be allowed to go about her life independently. The brunette interrupts. I didn't expect you to give your answer right away. Getting down on one knee, he calmly asks for forgiveness for all the inconvenience caused. He really wanted everything to be fine. He didn't think that I would do something wrong. The time has come to lay all the cards on the table. It just seems to me as if we have met before. That is why the Duke rushed many things without realizing it. He did not even notice. The young man decides to go to his estate. Before leaving, he notes that they might see each other again before the meeting. This has already happened, and of course everything came true. The lady thought that this was impossible, but the next morning she met the Duke again. He was sitting in her hall in the estate. The young man was smiling. Of course, the brunette waited for the beauty for more than 10 minutes. Just like last time, the woman understands that since the young man came again, he has been with the rest of the family this whole time. Millie Trio didn't touch his food, which meant that everyone else couldn't start eating either. The Duchess's expression was completely embarrassing. She looked too angry. The green-haired girl sits down next to him. His lordship smiles only at his friend. Despite the faces of the others, he deliberately ignores them, doing it openly. Until this day, the family had never missed breakfast, but now, they all look unhappy. Besides, they were never expecting a youngest daughter. The brunette abruptly declares that they can eat. He thanks them for waiting, and then leaning towards the lady asks a question. I tried hard, didn't I? The woman clears her throat. She almost laughed. The man really is dangerous. He should control himself a little better when they are together. Little later, the Duchess asks a direct question. She is trying to find out what is going on with her and Milade, Rio, but he does not let the girl answer, asking her, why don't you eat meat? The beauty refuses, stating that there is already enough food on the plate. He sadly lowers his eyes, because food tastes better when shared. Finally paying attention to Vita, he carelessly asks what she wanted. The redhead just wanted to politely ask why the man had arrived early in the morning, and why he hadn't shown her the politeness required by the rules of etiquette. The husband tried to say something, but Millie Trio clicked his tongue in displeasure. It was up to him to decide whether to address him politely, but this only made him angrier. The brunette says that he proposed to Karen, but she refused. The next morning, the hero arrived with the same purpose. The green-haired girl understands what this is all leading to, so she refuses again. It seems that the hero understands everything. He decides to continue eating breakfast, and advises his friend to do the same. Her plate also remains filled with a variety of food. The woman understands that this is not the time to eat in peace, but she has never been served such exquisite dishes in the house in which she lives, and she should take advantage of the opportunity. When the Archduke leaves, there will certainly be another conflict. The lady even wants the moment to last a little longer, but nothing can be done about it. It was time to leave, and Hexion was asked only for one thing, warning him not to arrive during breakfast and test the family's patience. Nodding, the young man seems to understand, but his face seems completely joyless. This worries Karen. although she is in a joyless situation. Bella comes up to announce the meeting. Madame wants to see her stepdaughter. The beauty goes into the room and soon stands in front of the door, through which she quietly misses, calling for her mother. The lady doesn't like being called by a different name, but there are too many people around to pretend they aren't part of the same family. Screams are heard, all the maids are sent away, and the girl is called inside. She should not remain in place, frozen like a statue. Soon as the lady crosses the threshold, she immediately understands that what happened was expected, because she receives a resounding slap in the face, leaving a huge scarlet mark on her face. The woman continues to scream. She does not understand how they dared to humiliate her so much. The girl is not afraid of anything, because now the Grand Duke protects her in all situations. This is followed by accusations and comments that marriage will not change anything. The interlocutor no longer controls herself, and yet once upon a time, the girl went out of her way just to achieve love. At first, the lady even treated her with care, but at some point, her attitude changed dramatically. This happened because the truth came to light, that Karen was an illegitimate child, and not just an orphan. The Duchess swings again, but this time her arm is grabbed, preventing her from striking. It's worth looking the truth in the eye, then we'll be able to understand who's really stuck in the mud. The creator of misfortune cannot be a girl who was adopted to play someone else's role, or a woman who learned that her sincere love was betrayed. Both options, however, fade into the background, since the lady cannot express all her grievances to the Duke, so she takes out all her anger on the one whom the gentleman brought into the house. The woman takes her hand back and turns around, snorting with displeasure. Such a life is terrible, and it's likely that even time won't heal hatred. This is truly something to sympathize with. Muttering something else under her breath, the lady leaves discontentedly, which means that the stepdaughter can also leave the room. She will never be imbued with sympathy for someone who ruins everything. Despite the fact that there is such hatred between them, the beauty still feels a share of sympathy. You must take care of your health, mother. The next day, the lady met the Duke again yesterday. He had been told not to come during breakfast, so acting more cleverly, the man arrived for dinner. The heroine experiences a degree of horror. Perhaps the young man will go further, although the great princes and dukes must respect each other, despite any obstacles. The days passed. They were different, but there was some stability in them, namely the arrival of Hexion. He stubbornly appeared day after day, while offering the same thing, namely, Wailuet a wedding. The lady gradually begins to tire of this, and on the 6th day, the brunette reminded her that in a day, the date on which they agreed to meet should arrive. The promise was no longer valid. The beauty believed that it no longer had any meaning, because after all, they saw each other almost every day. The Duchess, sitting at the table with them, seemed the most dissatisfied. The young man proposes to marry him again, and again, the beauty is forced to refuse, because it is impossible to radically change a decision in a few days. The brunette calmly nods. What is happening seems to normal. Usually, after the first refusal, a person gives in, but in the case of the Duke, he continues to walk day after day, and accepts the answer with a smile. The Duchess is constantly being attacked by Hexion. Now she looks terrible. The hero became more aggressive after seeing the bruises on the lady's face. Man turns to a friend and asks her to think about the fact that the swollen piece of bread that was on her face has completely disappeared, and the green-haired woman and doesn't understand anything at all. His hands reached for her plate, the young man justifying this action by saying that he shouldn't eat fatty foods. He cares about the health of the one he cares about. The baker at home has a huge talent. This can also be noticed. The heroine immediately puts her hands to her face. The conversation is about the fact that her cheeks are swollen. She has noticeably gained weight over the past week. A chuckle is heard. The acquaintance does not want to offend, but simply notes that if Adele were healthier, the dough in the house would be in great danger. He turns to the Duke. Isn't that right? The lady's father cannot go against Hexion, although his gaze becomes noticeably more terrible. In the end, there is nothing left to do but remain silent and continue dining. Soon the lady notices that it is getting cooler outside. In the morning. The beauty packed a feather and tea, and went out a little early, which means everything should be fine. She had a nightmare last night, but it's best to ignore it. The woman is careful, because she doesn't want to cross paths with Cor, and just one meeting could make things much worse. The Archduke meets you at the entrance. What's surprising is how red his face is. The brunette had arrived at the meeting place even earlier, and he even had to wait longer. The hero shrugs. I was worried about what time I had to arrive. His behavior can be explained. After all, this is the first meeting with someone who wants to spend time together. The beauty gently touches her hand. Almost immediately, she freezes in bewilderment. Your hands are so cold. What time did you arrive? Initially, the agreement was for the morning, but over time they still Calden decide. He decided to arrive early, or more precisely at AM, which is even more surprising, since it was almost. Due to the excitement, like a small child, the hero could not sleep at all. The green-haired girl, listening to all this, makes her own choice. Before leaving, they will have to look for a place where they can warm up. The beauty also suggests seating at a restaurant. The food will help you relax a little, and if the dishes are hot, it will only be beneficial. It turns out that the hero packed his own lunch. The young man points to a horse standing to the side. He says that everything necessary is there, and indeed, there is a huge closed basket installed on top. Not knowing what foods would suit the beauty's taste, the hero decided to collect completely different options that might suit her. Understanding the situation, the maiden asks whether the Duke was asleep. The brunette's eyes glow with happiness, as if he had been given a compliment. Although it was clear to everyone that this was not entirely true, the man must be tired, which meant he would have to rest first. Making excuses, the gentleman assures that he will be able to spend time together peacefully. If everything is okay, it is best to go into the forest and not waste unnecessary time. It's time to leave. Before heading inland, the young man notices out of the corner of his eye that someone is watching them. After half an hour, they stop at the appointed place. The lady's guard did not go with them. When asked about this, she explains with surprise that she did not take any of the knights with her. The young man realizes that he was mistaken. It wasn't the Duke's knights in the bushes in any case. It was a forest during the competition. It seemed like it would take a long time to get there. Surprisingly, it turned out to be much faster to travel on a horse than on a carriage. Hexion asks to wait a little longer, suggesting not to waste time and have a snack. It's immediately clear that the gentleman wants to show off his cooking so as not to upset him. The woman nods. I just happened to get hungry. Almost immediately, the acquaintance takes out a mat and asks to sit down. The basket looks quite large. After a few minutes, the young man finished laying everything out. The amount of food feels enormous. Smiling and proud of his work, the acquaintance assures that what has been done should be enough. Until the morning, he does not think there is an overabundance of food. This is not a problem. There's a perfectly cut sandwich on the plate. We were talking about a variety of food, however. Only the fillings in the sandwiches are varied. Nothing more. The woman should be grateful. After all, the Duke prepared everything listed single-handedly, and this is worthy of praise. Biting off a piece, the lady admits that she likes the taste. The finished dish is much tastier than one could have imagined. It must have taken quite a lot of time to make such a large quantity, and it is truly worthy of admiration. Next, the hero offers to try fruit wine. He holds out a glass. Despite all the delight, the look asking for a compliment is a little burdensome. The girl takes the drink and asks about its origin. The taste is rich and sweet. Everything in moderation, which makes it pleasant. When the lady names the exact name, the Duke is surprised. The wine matured for 5 years. There was little rain, so it turned out quite sweet, which was not originally planned. The woman begins to remember that in the new year, for its deep aroma, it was Rudolph that won the Golden Rop Award. It is famous for its value and rarity. Even for the nobility, getting hold of a bottle will be quite difficult. Having once bought up the available stock, Militrio raised the market price, but when it comes to wine, its taste becomes richer with age, and the price is ever higher and beyond the reach of many. The Duke sees no problem in manipulating market prices. This man is the reason one drop of the drink costs 5 gold coins. High position provides many opportunities. This is known to everyone, but only the Archduke and his beloved, who has the privilege of spending her husband's fortune, can dispose of what they receive. The conversation turns to family. The hero wants to know if the lady treats her well. She shrugs and asks, "Can I treat her badly?" The young man does not want to drive the lady into a corner with his uncomfortable questions. He is simply worried that the girl will experience many difficulties with her family. The Duke and everyone else in the estate neglect one of the family members, which means there is an opportunity to behave identically, and if problems arise, you can always turn to Mil 8 Rio. Hexion is ready to help and be useful. If you need anything, I'm always there. He suddenly talks about marriage, again returning to the same topic, and this is confusing. The lady is about to begin with the transcript. When asked, she explains that in any case, they have already had enough rest, so they have just enough strength. Hexion stands up and nods. One cannot help but notice that the young man never calls the lady by name, although he himself asked for it. He explains, "It is because you have not named him to me yet, right?" It's worth noting that the young man is quite witty, since he answered in this way. The lady decides to go to the obelisk anyway. She immediately understands that, compared to the previous one, this one is much better preserved. The girl began to decipher much faster. It was easy for her to do such things. Even without relying on any notes, the first part on the stone was just an introduction. The woman asks to let her concentrate, since she will soon learn all the secrets. The young man smiles. She is truly an interesting person, and one wants to watch. The young man does not want to distract from an important task. He really wants to tell the truth. During this time together, the hero has become deeply imbued with sympathy. his heart trembles. The hero realizes that the girl has disappeared somewhere. He looks around in a hurry, not quite understanding what is happening. The footprints near the obelisk are still visible. Traces of the stones deciphered are still in place until recently. The beauty was definitely there. There were no signs of teleportation magic even before her disappearance. The brunette was wondering where his friend had gone. He needed to find her. This wouldn't do at all. He couldn't see that she was standing next to him. Only, it seemed hidden by magic. The woman tries to call the guy, but then she realizes that no one notices her. Suddenly, the Duke starts acting as if he doesn't see the body, and even ignores her. Hexin moves from side to side, and constantly calls the beauty, hoping that she will appear. The lady comes closer and touches her hand, but her palm bounces away. Hands bounce back faster than they can touch, as if something is blocking the touch. Perhaps some invisible barrier has simply formed. The beauty tests the theory on a tree. It's possible to touch the trunk, if you think about it, and traces also remain on the grass without any problems. They also appear around Hexion. The same light emanates from the body as from the obelisk at night. The whole situation is most likely connected with the tombstone. The girl opens the notebook to understand what everything is directly connected with. The traveler calls the area a Valley of Illusions. The place defies common sense, and it's worth forgetting about it while you're there. Illusion is what is mentioned on the obelisk, so the solution to the problem can certainly be found there. The woman understands that she should decipher the symbols that remain as quickly as possible. There's only one problem. Hexion, thinking that the lady has disappeared, will continue to search for her, and while he is doing this, night will fall, which will not benefit either of them. The scary thing is that the phenomenon may not be perceived by ordinary people. The illusion may not work on ordinary animals. The girl continues to write in her notebook, but nothing happens. It's forced, but she still manages to calm her worries. After all, the young man is still in sight, and she only needs to think about the task. As soon as the transfer is resolved, everything will fall into place. Finally, the time comes to the right moment. The whole point of the glade is that it deceives people, and then turns them into supernatural creatures. There is fear in the eyes, because the lady is in exactly this state. The lady was distracted, so she didn't notice how the young man appeared next to her. He scared her. The brunette still doesn't understand what's wrong, and what he should do. As he thought, there is no sign that the beauty has left. There were plenty of opportunities to hunt elsewhere, so the man didn't pay much attention to this area, and came without much thought, which he now regrets. Previously he saw something, but he can't remember what exactly. There was a document with the testimony of one and only person who returned a year after disappearing. It seems that the lost wanderer was talking about how he was the only person there. It becomes clear that creatures can communicate, even when they are very close. The young man feels just as good as when he is with the lady. There is less pain in his heart, and his body feels lighter. The hero says out loud that he will stay a little longer, because he understands what is happening. The brunette decides to check if the lady can hear him. There's a good chance the reason for this phenomenon is written on the tombstone. He just needs to figure out what exactly fits there. If the beauty is nearby, she most likely found out about what happened and is already deciphering everything she needs. It will take a little time, but it will definitely be worth it. Of course, the Duke will not go anywhere until everything is decided. He will wait until the very end, until he is given a signal. The main thing is that the signal is recognized in time. The young man sits in silence. He was sure that Adele was nearby. Since she was not visible, it was impossible to decide what would be best. It began to seem that it would be better to call an archaeologist. Jumping up from his seat, the gentleman exhales with displeasure. He is angry with himself, because he obviously should have held the beauty's hand, but instead he let her go. The lady tries to hurry. She sees that despite the promise, the young man is having a hard time. The next thing she learns is that the forest is so amazing that it goes beyond imagination. Fulheim is quite an impressive sight for explorers, but it's worth remembering that the wanderer who made the obelisk and the inscriptions, having traveled the entire route, never fully explored what was going on inside. The answer is truly contained in the stone. The Duchess assures herself to be as calm as possible. There is still hope, so nothing will happen. An unfamiliar voice is heard. Turning around, the lady freezes in horror. In front of her is a fairy, who is glad that a man has finally appeared on the border after a long time. When the baby is called a bug, she gets incredibly angry. She is more furious than she looks. Her body emits light. She looks quite unusual, similar to the creature mentioned in fairy tales. Virgo asks if there is a fairy in front of her. Apparently that is what people call them. Adele asks if her new acquaintance sees her, and she nods. You are saying obvious things. Of course I can. The little girl asks if it is really a person in front of her, because the lady is somehow strange. It seems that she is protected by an obelisk. She has already come to the forest before, and it worked in a peculiar way. They're not talking about a simple entrance to Fulheim. They're talking about whether the beauty went deeper. She shakes her head negatively, and what's happening raises more and more strange questions. The gaze drops to the notebook. A young person like Adele is able to decipher the spelling of Guexenlight. The green-haired one does not understand what is being discussed. The hero Guexenlight is a man who did a lot for his country. There was even a legend and that he defeated a demon. It is known that he was the emperor's first friend. The lady had no idea that the inscriptions on the stone were made by a great man. Such an amazing character decided to leave behind a legacy, and it was the right decision. The fairy doesn't know stories from another world, but she's sure that the guy came and said that he doesn't want praise for his research. He wants to conduct it in complete secrecy. The beauty asks the heroine if she would like to go back to the boy. She nods very willingly and asks if her new acquaintance knows any ways to come to her senses. The little girl says that if she deciphers everything, she will be able to return back, which is a relief, since the heroine prefers to look for clues on her own anyway. Sitting down, the strange creature says that several years ago, there was also a man on the border, but he freely entered and exited the human world back and forth. For him, this was not a problem. They met Guexenlight completely by chance, but it was nice. It was immediately clear that the fairy was very bored. There was nothing unusual in this. The maiden was trying to force herself not to think about unnecessary things. She should hurry. A few people pass by, sunset comes, and finally, it's time to finish with the notes. The woman is so tired that she sank to the ground. She notices with relief that she has finished everything. She has completely deciphered the text. The little girl asks to start reading. The suggestion to simply show the notebook seems absurd. The fairy is unhappy. It is obvious that she will not be able to read. Why do you think that I know human language? The lady understands that she has been speaking a different language all this time, and she is confused by the fact that reading the text will take too much time, and more than several hours have already been lost. The fairy offers the perfect deal. If the new acquaintance reads all the information, the guy will be forced to fall in love with her. The heroine's face turns scarlet. She is surprised. Even if the girl is not interested in the Duke, any other person can fall in love with her. Just by looking at Adele, they will all be nervous and want to be closer. The woman feels uncomfortable. It is obvious that the creature can control people's minds. The level of generosity is terrifying, so she has to refuse. The girl doesn't want anything. She doesn't think of asking for anything, of course. She will read everything she needs. Although fatigue is still present, the fairy may start to bother Karen if she refuses again. Before getting down to business, the beauty asks you to promise her that after a few pages, a huge wave of anger will not follow. There could be many reasons for this. Opening the notebook, Vita once again reminds them that they have an agreement not to get angry. Information about people can be peculiar. The heroine knows that she must give a signal to Hexion before night falls. The speech on the obelisk is about an unknown creature. This is all that can exist in the area of people and fairies. That place is a kingdom created by fairies, but from time to time people go into it, all because most of the people are sensitive to magic. People who cross the border of worlds are considered trespassers. Many simply believe that they took the wrong path. Guexenlight also took the wrong path. This led him to another place. Fairies are known to be stubborn and cruel creatures, lacking common sense and morality, but this does not mean that it is impossible to communicate with them, because this is not entirely true. Sometimes, something special happens. There are cases when a race bewitches people, and there are those who enjoy human despair. For them it is nothing more than a joke. The little girl starts screaming, interrupting her reading. She is angry at Light, because despite the fact that he died, he still remained a rude person. They can't even argue. It makes her angry. The woman decides to continue. Guexenlight writes that it is easy to return, becoming an unknown creature. Human contact is needed. The lady becomes sad. She cannot touch the body. The last time was not successful. The green-haired girl glances at the next page. It is there that she finds the answers she needs. If you do not have access to a person, you can eat human food. There's little left. At the very end of the obelisk it is written that if a person wants to go to another world intentionally, he needs to eat the fairy plant that grows in Fulheim. Usually, upon entering another world, a person ceased to see reality. The thing in his hands ceased to be a human object. It turns out that even holding and eating food will not be entirely effective. A person who has entered beyond the limits may also have advantages if he becomes friends with a fairy. She will help, even after being reborn into the real world. Guexenlight notes that the creatures live forever. However, this does not mean that they cannot die by accident. The man lied to them, saying that he would stay with them forever. The young man never had the chance to apologize. He had been carrying the burden for a long time. There was a way to get to the fairy forest, or a chance to make a wish once he managed to find all the obelisks. Whatever happens, you first need to befriend the fairy. There is a place for a third tombstone. However, Adele is worried about the entry that is located at the end. As soon as night falls, the evil creature will wake up. Guexenlight writes that when you meet an animal with scarlet eyes, you should immediately close your eyes in order to survive. You need to remember this. The fairy calls the beauty. She asks if the notebook is empty. In response to a nod, the little girl suggests giving a gift. After all, the service was rendered. Almost immediately, the creature blows forward. Bluish sparks fly towards the Duchess. Her eyes suddenly light up with light. The girl herself does not understand what is happening to her. First, the heroine needed to come to her senses. She quietly asks what happened, and they answer her, "You already have the obelisk's protection, but I think you'll find it useful too." The little girl explains in more detail that from now on, Adele will have healing powers, but of course, she should never show it to other people. It could end badly. The woman still doesn't understand what's going on. She doesn't feel any changes in herself. In any case, there's no more time to waste. It's time to try human food. Hexion gets up and calls the lady. It's not long before their meeting. The beauty takes a bite of the sandwich, and then waits for at least some effect to appear. A split second passes, the light surrounding the body disappears, and finally, the brunette sees Adele in front of him. He cannot help but be happy, because a lot of time has passed since her mistake. Quickly approaching, the hero takes the girl by the hand. He is happy that everything is okay, because for a time he thought that he had lost the Duchess forever, and this could not but sadden. The young man didn't know where the beauty had gone, but he didn't feel any pain, so he knew she was nearby. He didn't take any medication because he was sure his pain would tell him where Vita was. The woman is no less delighted. She can touch, so she immediately puts her palms to her friend's chest. From this, the young man blushes and asks again in surprise. There is absolutely no strength left. You have to lean on the hero. The existence of the fairy is really amazing, but the truth is that the Duchess is a little scared. The girl hopes that she will never meet the creature again, but then she hears a squeaky voice expressing joy at returning to the real world, and a fairy appears ahead. It's a relief to the little girl that she can be seen. She smiles ominously, explaining that she made a blessing. "You like my gift, right?" Something inside her turns over. The woman wants to run, because she doesn't understand why she sees a new acquaintance in front of her. Besides this, she also notices things that she had no opportunity to see before. The gaze turns to the obelisk. The glowing letters suddenly appear and cover up those that were scratched out, as if this only happens at night, under the moon. In addition to the fact that the beauty can see the inscriptions, she will also gain good night vision, and will even be able to resist wizards. Her hands shake from this realization, because the Duchess does not want this. Hexion calls the lady. He is worried, especially because he sees her talking to someone. The green-haired girl does not know how the man will react, and whether he will believe what can be told. A whirlwind rises. A sudden gust could knock you off your feet, but the two manage to hold on. The woman does not understand whether the fairy is happy with this, and what is the reason for her anger. Hexion sees something huge flying towards the girl. He immediately rushes and protects her with his back. Soon the wind dies down, as if it had never risen. The creature snorts with displeasure. She was overexcited and didn't even notice it herself. The displeasure is clearly visible. "Who gave you permission to irritate me? People are very ungrateful creatures after all." Adele asks if Milatrio is okay. He is fine, but his clothes are torn, his arm is exposed, and it resembles a stone. The fairy asks what it is starting to smell like. She is surprised that people have similar disorders. The man quickly covers his hand. He became sad and asks for forgiveness for allowing someone to see something so terrible. Chuckling, the little girl declares that it was caused by the poison bell. Of course, the process will take a long time, but the beauty says that the body can be healed. The woman does not believe it. She blinks her eyes in surprise. Her hand really is made of stone. It was previously stated that Vita has the blessing of the obelisk. Her healing abilities will grow the more tombstones are deciphered, the stronger her power will be. The fairy knows exactly what she's talking about. The information came from Guexen Light. There are cases when old artifacts have amazing power. The green-haired girl wants to clarify the details. She calmly asks if the blessing is different from what she already has. She wants to know the details, preferably as many as possible. Of course, the girl expresses her gratitude for the power given to her. It sounds great, however. Despite this, she has no particular desire to possess what was given to her. The quiet question makes the fairy lose her temper, and she screams, because the Duchess asked to take the blessing back. She feels that she will definitely not need something like that. The little girl declares that she won't be able to return everything back, which means that Adele isn't very happy, although seeing magical power is generally a useful thing, especially for a person. Now the woman can walk at night, and she will also be able to see the path of fairies. Despite this, the heroine does not see the benefits, but there is nothing to do. Then how can I use this blessing of the obelisk? Guexen Light said that only desires will manifest, nothing more. He did not tell all the details. The answer can easily be found on another tombstone. You just need to try to decipher it. Miss wishes her good luck and then flies away. There is no point in her staying anymore. The woman decides to tell a friend about what happened to her. When asked, she reacts openly. The man doesn't see the creature, but it doesn't matter, because it's not accessible to him. The beauty explains that the branches also happened because of the baby. The girl changes the subject, asking about what happened to the hand. Don't worry, it's not contagious. The young man turns away. They ask him to show everything closer, and he has no choice but to agree. The brunette warns that there is no need to hide disgust. The lady feels the Duke's anxiety, and she too becomes anxious. She calmly asks to extend her hand and not to worry, and the color and condition resemble a stone statue, unusually. Hexeon exhales and answers the question asked. He is in pain. He shows his true self. Adele wants to help him, but does not understand what she should do to change the state. Remember the fairy's words. She said that you just need to want to help. She wants strength to appear. Suddenly thoughts materialize. A bright light appears around. The woman doesn't understand what happened. The skin has returned. Everything near the elbow has returned to normal. Further down the arm the veins just appear, although the stone shell remains. The young man was lost, even though it was only for a moment, but the sensitivity of his fingertips returned, and he was definitely able to feel vivid sensations. Taking pills helped, but even with them, not much was achieved. Even so, the fingers were no different from those of a dead person. It was hard to believe what was happening. It is necessary to tell the truth. The fairy said that now, the beauty will have unusual healing abilities. With her help it will be possible to save the hero, bringing his hand back to life. The young man asks again. He clarifies whether this is true, because after all, it is about Carlette's illness. Hearing this, the girl freezes in horror. The disease is not that simple. It is impossible to get rid of it, and it is the reason why Adele found herself in the situation she is in. The voice is quiet, the body is shaking, while the heroine clarifies. The man does not know whether it is worth telling that all this was just his senseless desire. He does not want to see disgust. The decision has been made, because the hero risks escaping from the clutches of the Emperor. The story I am about to tell you is quite difficult. Please be prepared. The Vitesse and the Emperor's family were close, since the ruler needed the Duke's support, and their alliance with the Vitesse was well planned in advance. Support was already implied, but years ago an incident occurred that forced the Duke to turn to the Lord for help. The man asked to find a doctor who could cure his daughter, who was infected with Carlette's disease. The lady remembers this, as it was that year that she entered the Witt family. The girl remains silent, and then asks if the young man knew who she was. This is obvious, otherwise he would not have told her the full story. It turned out that the gentleman was allowed to know about the lady, as well as the true nature of the disease. Many do not know about this, because all the details are kept strictly confidential. Hexeon decides that instead of telling the secret right away, he will lead the way gently, so he calmly asks, "Do you know about the agreement between us?" The conversation turns to political marriage. The girl couldn't have imagined that the conversation would lead to this, and so she gasps in surprise, while the brunette continues his story to clarify the situation further. In exchange for turning a blind eye to the fact that the real Karen had fallen victim to illness, and Adele being recognized as the new replacement, the Emperor proposed a political marriage. The ruler wanted to tie the two puppets together. Finally, everything falls into place. The lady was neglected not just because of the appearance of the younger sister. The marriage seemed to be a hasty decision, but now it is clear that in fact the decision was made a long time ago. Other questions arise in the mind. It is not clear why then Adele was killed. It's becoming scary to realize that perhaps another variable has appeared that is more important. The green-haired one didn't realize. She thought that she would be able to escape after the birth of her sister. It won't be possible to live peacefully, because none of this mattered from the very beginning. The girl was only a tool for the Duke. She remained one until the very end. Hexeon had previously wanted to be recognized by the Emperor, so he made the agreement. He was so willing to be loyal that he drank the poison that was given to him. Now it is clear that the two share the same destiny. That is why the girl can allow herself to cry. She will not be judged while they are together, hidden from prying eyes. The woman squeezes her hands tightly. She will not cry, but not because of the traitors, and not because of the situation she was forced into, because that will not change anything. It will only make things worse. Proudly raising her head to the sky, the beauty assures that she is completely fine, and if she cries, it will only be tears of joy. When she manages to escape and hide from the whole world, smile freezes on Hexeon's lips. As expected, the lady is truly an amazing person. Blushing a little, she asks what they are talking about. The girl is much stronger than Milate Rio. The thought flashes through his head that he could trust her completely. The woman is asked if she knows who is standing in front of her. The Archduke is actually the result of a night spent by the Emperor with a gypsy, an illegitimate child. The boy was thrown away by his father, completely neglecting him. The lady is surprised that the young man is exactly the same as her in order to survive. The hero fell at the ruler's feet, almost begging to be given at least one more chance. Until yesterday, Hexeon wanted to please his father, but now he wants something completely different. He needs to change the situation before it's too late, and he asks for help. The lady lowers her gaze. She does not understand why she is being asked for a favor. She probably won't be able to do much. The conversation turns to the power that the fairy bestowed. The young man explains that his illness is quite advanced, and with the help of the beauty's strength, he will be able to live peacefully instead of crawling at the emperor's feet. Every 6 hours, you need to take medicine, which can only be given by the ruler himself. If you don't take the pills, it becomes difficult to breathe, and then it seems as if the person is dying. The young man takes Adele by the hand. He has taken anything for hours, but despite this, he doesn't feel bad at all because there is a person with magic next to him. The hero himself doesn't know what Vita is doing, but he is sure that they will definitely help him, and he will be able to help in return if the emperor decides to kill. The girl freezes in horror while the obvious is explained to her in recent years. The emperor has begun to give in to the wits. He may give the order to kill the duke's daughter in order to undermine the family's position. The lord may be held responsible for a failed political marriage, and it is only so that the king can strengthen his power over his allies that he does not allow them to get ahead. Hexane doesn't know anything for sure. He only has assumptions. Adele begins to realize that it is not her father who is to blame for her death, but someone else. This changes the situation, but not much. The emperor has always been a cruel man. He trusts only himself. He prefers to destroy with his own hands the lives of other people who are not pleasing to him. The brunette takes Vita by the hand. Actually, I would like to know your real name. The young man always chooses the most inopportune moment. At every moment, the hero wanted to know the truth, but until that time, he could not reveal what he knew. He did not want anyone to know more. It is really important for Hexeon to call Karen by a different name. He needs her real name. There is not a drop of deceit in his words. All his words are true and sincere. The beauty lowers her gaze. She is grateful for the support, but even so, she still feels a little uneasy. She does not want to say something she is not sure of. Hexeon offers another, more interesting option. For example, it can be used as a tool against your enemies. They definitely need each other. The question breaks the silence. The girl wants to know if this is the only reason why she was proposed to. First of all, it sounds strange. The answer is simple. No, it is not. The lady makes one feel a lot. Inside the heart there is a constant feeling as if he managed to meet an important person whom the knight had long forgotten. From the first meeting, there was a feeling of longing in the heart. Young man always wants to be sure that a woman is safe, so he seeks a meeting with a girl every day. When she is not around, he can only worry. Hexeon decided to act, because they met earlier than expected, whether it was due to strength or feelings, but actions clearly influence decisions. It becomes clear to Adele that the future can be prevented without thinking twice. She tells her name and then clarifies what is required of her. How can I help? The man calmly asks to be his wife, at least until they get rid of a common enemy, or until the time comes when it will be so difficult that the lady wants to leave the estate. The heroine is promised constant protection. Of course she will not be deprived of freedom, because this is everyone's personal business. The young man looks with eyes full of hope. In just a few seconds, the lady makes a decision. Let's get married. I'll try to trust you. Hexeon can't contain his emotions, so he rushes to hug. Almost immediately the young man jumps back. He didn't think that he would have such an impulse. He was just happy. His face shows that he is embarrassed. Karen must be pretty tired. They ask her if she can last through the evening. The lady waves it off. From now on, she sees hidden words during the day too. It's no longer a problem. The fairy granted a strange ability that allows one to decipher symbols at any time. The brunette nods. In that case, I'll wait for you. Everything is fine. After a while, the hero fell asleep. As expected, because the beauty had disappeared, he was in constant anticipation. The heroine understands that she has very little time left. The lady soon finished and approached Hexeon. She wanted to wake him up, but decided to let him sleep longer. Sitting next to him, she reflected on how she met the knight. The girl thinks about her past life. It turns out that the young man did become her husband. On the day she died, he came for her to save her, but it was too late. Adele is distracted from her thoughts. The brunette turns to her, noticing that her gaze will most likely burn a hole in him. It was so intent. Hexeon himself did not notice how he fell asleep. This is because yesterday he went to bed too late. The maiden reports that she finished deciphering, so it is worth going back. The surprised look speaks for itself. The hero does not understand whether the lady really wants to return to the Duke. She has no choice, and her friend looks like he needs rest. A beauty, if she can trust in the residence, can always run away. The brunette sometimes did the same, but the emperor didn't stop him, as he was sure that his son would return for medicine. Even so, Adele envies him for being able to do something similar, and the man, inspired by the idea, seriously recommends doing something similar. The girl has somewhere to go, First they will start with the engagement, but she can run away to her future husband at any moment. He is ready to protect her at any time. Still, not accepting the proposal, the heroine asks to come back. There are still doubts in my head. Did I do the right thing by agreeing to get married? Despite the uncertainties her mind throws at her, Adele still wants to trust the man who has always protected her. Few days later, the beauty sent what her future husband had asked for. He needed information. His actions were limited due to the emperor's close surveillance. Needs a reliable informant who can monitor the movements of the ruler's family. The girl assures that she can find such a person. She knows that she will fulfill the request. Soon after the conversation, the heroine arrived at the place where she was supposed to find the informant. She needed the place had not changed at all. It was extremely gloomy. 10 years have passed since the lady left the street. She hopes that the speaker is still there. Her gaze notices a boy who is watching the aristocrat. Compared to the other children, the baby is too attentive to his surroundings. The woman thinks that he is the new leader of the orphans, so she immediately turns to him. I need to ask you a question. The brunette rudely suggests that the lady leave if she is lost. The exit is on the other side. Still smiling, and she remarks that she won't get lost in a place like this. The boy doesn't look like someone who does business. The green-haired girl needs to find a guy named Jin. The answer is no. I've never seen anything like him. Adele finds an approach. She hands over a coin and asks the question again. The heroine says that she is a close friend. She definitely needs to find a friend, because she is in a difficult situation. She hears another refusal. I can't allow you to meet. As expected, the boy knows the man with scarlet eyes. The girl asks to at least pass on a message, to say that Adele wants to meet him. To appease the boy, the woman hands over a few more coins. He is surprised that there are so many of them, and checks whether they are real. Then she is asked to come the next day. The Duchess remembers herself as a child if she had a coin in her hands. It seemed that everything in the world was within her reach. The brunette, obviously, also cares for other orphans from the street. Whole bag of gold appears in his hands, and, stuttering, the interlocutor still explains that it will not be possible to meet before the appointed time. He asks how he earned so much money. Just a bride, nothing more. The heroine wants to make sure that the message will be conveyed. Of course she does not mention that the boy reminds her of herself, but only in childhood. The time comes to say goodbye. The next morning, the beauty arrives at the place. The alley is like a labyrinth. The lady is lucky that she did not meet bad people. The lady is glad that Kirin is late, but she knows that she still needs to prepare for the meeting. The girl notices the boy. She goes to him and asks how everything went. It turns out that Jin has no friends. He said so himself. There's a mess in my head. It's not clear how to explain that although they weren't friends, in the past they shared food together, were hungry, and were in the same place. A familiar voice is heard. Most likely it was the butler who was taking care of the stray cat. The lady turns sharply, and in front of her stands Jin. The man frightened the beauty. He changed a lot. Grew up and now looks frightening. Touching his face with his hand, the red man remarks, I thought you died. Without thinking twice, the hero decides to take Adele away. They cannot stay on an unsafe street. After minutes the lady asks to stop. They are walking too fast. After the request, the young man slowed down. They calmly reached the desired place. They go down the stairs. More than minutes passed. It seems there is a secret place downstairs. The red-haired man, as if reading their minds, asks them to be calm and just follow him. They won't get lost. There's not much time left before they reach their destination. They reached the very center of the capital, and after passing through the door, the two found themselves in the information guild. They wanted to ask a question, but Jin stopped them. They had to reach the 3rd floor. Soon an assistant comes out. He greets the gentleman, and at his request, goes to bring tea, because one cannot leave a guest without a warm welcome. Dell sits down on the sofa, her eyes filled with surprise. To put it mildly, this is not at all what was expected. The young man captivates the Duchess in a warm cape, because she looks as if she is frozen. The red-haired man asks if anything is bothering his friend. She hints that she is hot, but directly only says that it will be enough to cover only her shoulders. It's time for a conversation. Jin's situation has improved quite a lot during the time they haven't seen each other. The young man shakes his head. Only the workload has increased. He has to do nonsense. The expression on his face hints at changes. It is impossible to understand what the hero is thinking about, but judging by the room he has in the guild, his position in society is high. Adele came with ghostly assumptions, but she understands that she made the right choice. The man turns to her, reminding her again, I thought you were dead. As you can see, the Duchess is quite alive, but after her death, a lot has happened, and it would take time to tell everything. The woman clarifies what made her friend believe that his friend was no longer alive. Cal and Jack told her the truth and checked everything themselves to found the body, but when they returned to retrieve it, too many people had gathered, preventing them from moving forward. After some time, the acquaintances went to the place again. However, by that time the situation had worsened. The guards got rid of the lifeless body. They gave Jin a leather bracelet. The beauty exhales. It turns out that her disappearance was handled perfectly, so that no one had even a shred of doubt that the girl had died and would never return. The hero's gaze becomes attentive. He wants to know what this means. I would never have believed that I had incorrect information. Did Cal and Jack lie to me? DL just nods. She is asked to tell the truth. What happened over the years while she lived somewhere else, hidden from prying eyes. Those to sold the girl, she is angry at the way they acted, considering the fact that after that the man was fed false information. The young man's voice lowers, his eyes blaze with fire, all because of anger. At this moment the assistant arrives. He is almost immediately thrown out, asking to leave food and tea on the table. Now that everything is known, the hero wants even more details. He wants to know if the beauty is sure that she was sold, and in general, how it happened. On the day the baby was captured, those two were constantly hanging around her, and were even nearby when they were about to take her away. Adele saw Cal and Jack receiving money from the man. She would never be able to forget the laughter they made. They didn't care that the child was being taken to another place, unknown. The lady quietly asks if Jin's subordinates are alive. He shakes his head. Unfortunately, they both died. And not so long ago, someone who shouldn't have been offended held a grudge against them. The bodies were mutilated. The young man asks to enjoy the drinks, but he needs to deal with something important. Something he has to manage to keep track of. If he delays any longer, he might forget about it again. The girl will wait until the man returns. She needs to talk about her important task. The lady did not expect the meeting to be calm. She thought that she was forgotten. The red-haired man soon returned back. The plates on the table were completely empty. More snacks were needed. The address was directed to the stranger in the hood. He appeared as if out of nowhere. The woman increasingly does not understand what kind of person Jin has become in years. He gives orders to such people. Of course he was always amazing, even when they were children, but still. Sitting down opposite, the gentleman continues where they left off. He wants to hear the story. He wants to understand how the beauty lived all this time and what she did. The green-haired girl understands that if she tells about her relationship with the Archduke, she will break her promise. I am fine. The details will not be revealed. The beauty has to exhausted a look to say that nothing is happening. The young man cannot help but notice this, and he has to try to justify himself. The lady also notes that she needs to return before sunset. Upon hearing this, the young man jumps up and asks where she is going. He thought that the maiden would stay with him. The green-haired girl looks down sadly. She is going home. The answer is logical, but it still makes her angry. Seeing each other after a long time, they will not be able to have a normal meeting together. The beauty decides to tell what she needed. In fact, she can't do without the help of the guild, with the help of her old friend the hero, and wanted to get to know the staff, but she'll have to look for someone else. The woman notes that the request is not ordinary, but dangerous. She doesn't know if she can ask for something difficult, because in fact, Jin might not get out alive. Not only lives are at stake, the entire guild could be in danger. The request is so incredible that it is closer to a crime. Redbide begins to understand what exactly is being discussed. He asks to stop, because he does not want the beauty to die. But she refuses. I even already have an adherent. I will take the risk. That man didn't drag the lady into an adventure. She made the decision herself. She has only one chance to change her life and break free from the shackles. She can't miss it. Without thinking twice, the young man nods. In that case, I agree. He suggests meeting with his friend and her supporter. All the details will be discussed at the meeting, when there is time. The man accepts the gratitude. For him it's a trifle. They want to see Adele off, but she doesn't need it, because in her head, there is still a memory of where the exit is. Before parting, the hero reminds him that Vita can come to him whenever her heart desires. The guild can be considered a home. If the young man knew that his friend was alive, he would have done everything differently. Of course, the hero does not tell what he really dreamed about in the past. He only reminds that if a lady ever wants to run away or relax, the doors are always open to her. The girl thanks Jin for the offer. She smiles radiantly, and yet one cannot help but be happy that they were able to find each other again. Leaving the guild, Adele says goodbye and promises to be careful. The master turns to the subordinate. Be vigilant. Do not reveal yourself. He only nods. The assistant is ordered to find out everything that has happened to Adele over the past years, and most importantly, to never catch the eye of the girl herself or, even worse, the royal family. The conversation turns to those guys who were involved in Vita's disappearance. They were locked in the basement. The gentleman will deal with them himself until he comes out himself. No one can be allowed inside. The lady returned home. She sighed with relief. because she was still in the dining room. Kieran was there too. No one was looking for her. It would be nice if dinner never ended. There is a bag in the middle of the room. It looks like there is fruit inside, but it is not clear who left it. Suddenly, a memory comes. Judging by the shape and smell of blood, this is what Kieran once brought to his sister. If this were a past version of Adele, she would have calmly opened the bag without realizing it, and then gotten scared, which is exactly what her brother, who loves to bully, would have wanted. The woman is dissatisfied. This time she will not fall for it. Carefully picking up the thing, she throws it out the door, hoping that this will not cause big problems for the others. The green-haired girl breathes a sigh of relief. Although she will have to go through circles of hell, there is a way out. She will take food at dawn and lock herself in the room. The young man will only stay in the estate for 2 weeks, until it is time to contact Hexion. Unable to ignore or control Milate Rio in the house, the girl plans to ask for help until Kieran leaves the estate. The woman approaches to close the window with the latch. The brothers' magic lies not only in the use of fire, but also in the ability to move visible objects with ease. Of course, it is not clear whether this will help, but the beauty hopes for the best in such a situation. She would like to have a gift that can fight back rather than heal. The magic glows inside again. The skill that was obtained from the fairy is quite useful in the dark. It is better not to light candles so as not to arouse suspicion. Taking out a pen, the lady decides to write down her notes, because translating them in a hurry, she cannot make them out at all. Bella's scream was heard. She discovered the bag. The girl calls the head butler to complain. The silence does not last long. The green-haired girl knows that something impressive will happen. All that remains is to wait. The shouting outside increases, but they are already shouting at the maid, asking why she opened the gift. She tries to justify herself. I found the bag in the hallway. It's not my fault. The woman was asked to leave the thing in the room. It becomes clear to Kieran that it was his sister who threw it out into the hallway, and he immediately starts to break into the room, ordering her to open it. The girl hopes that the man will not dare to break down the door. She decides to continue ignoring him and goes to rest. Bella asks the gentleman to calm down. The Duke arrived. He grabs Kieran by the hand, rudely asking what his son is doing. He replies that the harrow and does not leave the room, although she was asked. The green-haired man is unhappy. The young man has matured, but still hasn't learned to control his emotions. The brunette is trying to make excuses, but she wasn't at dinner. I want to open the door. The gentleman tried to knock, but not receiving an answer, he decided that his daughter was sleeping. The son continued. He could not calm down. With such noise, Adele would not fall asleep. Everyone knows how sensitive she is. Kieran is ordered to calm down. They will meet in the morning. Nothing will happen if they wait a little. The man smirks. He will not say yes. A second later, the door is broken down with magic. The brunette looks inside and understands that his sister is not sleeping after all. His father was wrong, which means now it will be a lot of fun. The Duke will not leave it like this. The young man turns to Adele. She can't make such a mess with her pretense. Are you looking down on me? Sitting up on the bed, the beauty notices that she has just woken up. They try to refute the words. Vita has grown up. If something like this had happened in the past, she would have long ago been lying on the floor in tears. Patting his sister on the head, Kieran asks how she is doing, a mockery oozing from her head. Throwing back her palm, the lady asks her to leave and not to leave strange things in her room. They say that the monstrous Archduke proposed marriage because his future wife is not afraid of anything. The woman again repeats that she is tired. He should leave. The green-haired girl will not repeat it again if her brother does not agree, in which case the beauty will leave herself. She asks Bella to prepare the room in order to go to bed there. Kieran smiles. It seems I have not been home for too long. Suddenly it feels like the body is not moving. The beauty understands that magic is being used on her. Nothing new. The fire around the young man's body catches her eye. The lady has never seen anything like it before. He calmly asks her not to worry, because if she asks for forgiveness, the lady will certainly be released. The power of Kieran lifts the body into the air in her past life. The girl could not see it, but now she can most likely. The fairy's blessing is to blame for everything. The words about the possibility of resisting magic come to mind. The beauty doesn't know what that means, but she wants to try to cut the line of fire, and she reaches forward. Second later, the girl falls to the floor. Kieran does not understand what is happening. He angrily asks about what Adele did. It is not clear how the magic was blocked. The woman wants to tell the truth, but she is obliged to hide it from the Duke. She cannot allow him or her brother to suspect anything. No one in the estate can be trusted. It will not lead to anything good. Looking down, Adele notices that she herself doesn't know what they're talking about. She didn't do anything. Kieran decides to repeat. He grabs Vita again and pulls her forward, lifting her into the air. The lady decides not to resist. She can't let anyone suspect something is wrong. The brother sees that the magic works perfectly and doesn't disappear anymore. This can't help but make him happy. The young man understands that this is all a ridiculous coincidence. Nothing more. He carries the body out the window and orders everyone to start asking for forgiveness. The perfect time has come. The Duke turns to his son, not understanding why he is impatient. This has gone too far. If suddenly the girl falls, she will not survive, and all the blame will fall on his shoulders. Realizing that an opportunity has arisen, the Duchess declares that she would rather die than obey, but she nevertheless cuts the line of magic, and then falls down. There was a pond right under the window. The lady was glad that she was not injured despite the fact that she fell from a height. Someone pulled her out of the water, allowing her to breathe air. Kieran was the one who pulled the girl out of the pond. He shouts, asking if she is normal. The woman throws away the young man's hand when he asks if everything is okay. The man feels strange. He really wants to know who is in front of him, because his sister has changed. The same cry baby with the eternally frightened look is no longer the same. People like Kieran aren't really disgusting. The heroine hates the one who ruined her life, and started ruining everything from the very beginning. Smile appears on her face. It is sinister. The beauty can say such words with a displeased expression, but until now she has hidden her true essence. Bella rushes towards them. She asks the miss if she is okay. She has a blanket and towels in her hands, however. The mistress is not happy. She orders them not to come closer. She is disgusted by everyone who lives in the estate. The woman is not lying when she says that she is tired of everything that is happening. She is tired of the Duke, of Kieran, and of the servants who are constantly watching from the sidelines. Vita comes downstairs and asks if Karen is in pain. There is a falseness in his voice. He suggests calling a doctor if her body suddenly hurts. It is clear that the master does not worry about his daughter's condition. He only needs her to marry Hexion and fulfill her promise to the king. If so, he will have to follow his wishes. Stepping forward, the beauty announces that she will marry Milate Rio. She finally decides that it is time to agree to the marriage so as not to delay it any longer. The gentleman smiles. For him this is great news. The son tries to be indignant. He does not understand why they are talking about marriage and thinks that there is no point in it. Corin is asked to stop making noise and acting like a child, while Karen should go into the house. The details of the marriage will be determined a little later. She will be informed about everything. What's surprising is that Adele refuses. She will decide everything herself. She has fulfilled the role that was prepared for her, so she will choose the rest without her father's help. The man notices that the girl has become too self-confident lately. Her behavior is only getting worse. Starting with the hunting competitions, the future Duchess has no right to behave like this. The gentleman was too busy that he neglected his daughter's upbringing. He should have kept a closer eye on her, so that in the end, nothing bad would happen. Bella was asked to bring a cigar. The man remarks that if the girl continues in the same spirit, she might be punished, which means she should change. Milate Rio will come for the girl, and if he notices a wound on the face of his future wife, it will be bad and even a little awkward. It is not clear why the lady decides to do this. The Duke thinks his daughter is disgusting, but they will assume that it all started with stupidity. The woman will make a wise decision if she listens. Despite everything, Karen should keep her mouth shut, at least until she leaves the estate. Bella is asked to take the heroine to the very room that is closed from the others. The Duchess will be fed no more than twice a day. The maid grabs the hand, although she is asked to let go, but the orders of the head of the house are much more important. The lady cannot resist. She was told to stop this, because it is completely useless to behave like this. Without her father's permission, she cannot do anything. Before this, Karen could only go outside, because her misdeeds were overlooked, but from now on, she is not allowed to do so. The monster Milate Rio will be informed in a letter that it is time to discuss the details of the marriage. She is locked in a remote room. They ask her to rest, but her thoughts do not give her peace. She found herself in this situation again. It is terrible to think about. There is a room in the estate that is the furthest away. It is located on the second floor. It is always locked because it was used for Karen, no one else. It was so dark before that the lady didn't moan, but because of the magic she can now see all the dust. No one had cleaned the room since their last stay, and before the baby would only cry in the dark. Eating the piece of bread that was given twice a day, the girl began to feel the same disgust as the Duke, since she could not do anything. In her naivety, the lady never blamed the fact that she was punished in this way, just because she had not learned something. The lady has seen the light and now knows the truth. However, she still cannot get out. Karen cannot wait until she can change her life, because she is tired of everything. A few days later, the Duke meets with Hexion. Vita did not see the youth as anything other than another puppet with a high title. Walking forward, the gentleman studies the guy with his gaze. After all, he and Adele are very similar, although they don't have a long history of dating. Both don't know their place. About a week has passed since the girl was locked up. Since Milate Rio did not come, the wife's health has noticeably improved. Being gold-handed is undoubtedly good, but if you go too far, That's a completely different story. The young man should stop. The young man chuckled. He knew what to answer, because the Duchess's attitude towards Karen was really too much. But it seemed that the gentleman was not bothered by this. The man's expression is calm. The conversation turns to plans for marriage, which is much more important than discussing what the head of the house's wife did wrong. It would be best to discuss the details, and then report everything to the king. The green-haired man suggests an option. I think it would be better for you to train, and then have a wedding. The brunette smiles. He decides to do as his beloved wishes. The hero is going to decide everything himself, and then notify Karen about it, but on the show he says that he will ask Vita about her wishes. It is important to know when the wedding will take place. Once the engagement takes place, preparations will take some time. Millet Rio again asks to find out what date the Duchess is choosing. Father, the lady has not asked yet. He promises that he will ask the question, and then return with an answer. The Archduke can be sure of this. The brunette looks like he wants to say something important. The gentleman nods. He is not good at reading the atmosphere of a room. If something doesn't suit him, it's easier to say it right away. The young man does not want to discuss matters of marriage with Vita. He came so confidently, as if he himself was the bride. It does not look like I will marry you. Hexion orders Karen to be brought. Insistence is visible in his eyes. The man feels fear, but explains that the girl is not feeling well. The hero does not want to give up so easily. He asks to come to her room, but the heroine does not want to be seen in a sick state. The Duke suggests coming at another time, and he will find out from his daughter all the details about the wedding. Ro abruptly puts his mug down on the table. He smirks. What is happening is clearly starting to irritate him. It will not continue like this. It is obvious that before this, he had been too polite for too long, and people began to take him for nothing, but this should not be the case. It is considered disrespectful. The Duke asks with displeasure why such a decision was made. He does not try to hide the details, because that would be wrong. He asks his interlocutor to remain calm. The answer is astonishing. Millet Trio always recognizes a lie when deceiving. One should at least minimally control one's facial expression. Even with a high position, it is still important to observe etiquette. Besides, the young man does not see a problem with Karen's illness. She has a high sense of responsibility, and would have received guests even if she was in poor health. Before this, the hero had met enough liars to learn to recognize pretense. He orders Adele to be brought, or he will have to look for her. The Duke has no choice. He is still dissatisfied, but still promises that he will bring the beauty. He just has to wait a little. He asks not to go into the room, but Millet Rio assures that he wants to go up to his beloved. When women are sick, they must not be bothered. It sounds like the perfect excuse, but if you think about it, it is too persistent in forcing a man to retreat. The brunette smiles. I think I was a little excited. They say nothing can resist love. The owner of the house is asked to understand the situation. Getting up, the hero promises that he will return soon. He will convey the respect of Hexion. As it turned out, the father sincerely cares for his daughter. The gentleman is so close to Karen that he even decides to leave himself instead of calling the servant, despite the fact that the conversation is important, because it is a conversation with the Archduke. Karen is the youngest child. Vita is worried about everything that happens to her, because she needs personal care. Many difficulties have been overcome. They have not gone without a trace. The answer is a nod. The lady attracts attention as soon as you look at her, after which the gentleman goes upstairs to the second floor. He's angry. The monster has no manners, but the king forces the boy to perform many tasks. By signing a marriage contract, he will definitely limit his desires. The Duke understands that he must postpone the wedding and prolong the engagement in order to increase the influence of his house in front of the ruler. Adele is a tool. It is not clear whether the girl has come to her senses. Obedience is required of her. The door to the room opens. The light that penetrates makes her squint, all from lack of habit. The woman's notebook is taken from her hands. She states that she did not read it, because she was sitting in the dark. The thing was simply in her hands, nothing more. Karen is told that Millet Rio has arrived, and wants to see him, so she will have to get dressed and go downstairs. The girl is surprised, but happy. Hexion is smart. He recognizes lies. He must have realized that strange things are happening in the house. The beauty sharply says that she refuses. She will no longer follow orders. The man is angry. The daughter behaves this way because Millet Rio is with her, but he is great only in words. In fact, his role is that of a puppet. He will not protect the lady. Adele is obliged to do what she is told, to be obedient, and not to interfere. She should be a doll and not resist. The woman looks at him with a calm gaze. She doesn't like what's happening, but even so, she will no longer obey. The obedient doll is no more. The Duke raises his hand to slap. The girl does not understand the good way, so she will receive punishment. The lady was already prepared for the blow, but she felt nothing. Hexion stopped her palm. I thought the Duchess had a bad habit, but I didn't think that you were the same. The gentleman was about to hit his daughter with the hand that held the sword in the past, Fear was reflected in his eyes. Everything went completely wrong. Until the very end, the green-haired man tries to justify himself. He considers discipline important, and it is his duty to punish his children if they make a mistake. Punishment, as a parent, is not considered real, yet the master is not respected and is looked down upon, since such nonsense is allowed to be said. Only the wrong people use this kind of logic and try to educate children by hitting them. The Duke should understand the situation he has found himself in after all. Milatrio is higher in status, but the man in front of him is not. He won't do anything. Karen, surprised, asks how her future husband managed to find the forbidden room. He was worried and felt that the lady was there. Kieran's voice is heard. He came running to the noise and realized that his father was being held captive by a stranger. He asks what is happening. There is anger in his eyes. The brunette grins. The beauty's brother's manners are not the best. The man grabs Vita's hand, trying to free her, but can't do anything. Never before had such power been encountered. Only one monster could possess such an ability. Finally, Milatrio steps away, looking at the newcomer. He clearly has a limited vocabulary, and also a thoughtful manner of mindlessly throwing himself at people. The rumors are true. Kieran is in front of him. He wants to strike, but the Duke quickly dodges. Hexion grabs the man by the throat. It pays to be a little careful when going up against someone unknown. The father is offered to punish the brat, because he likes to use force. The brunette regrets that he cannot use his strength. No one takes Kieran's side. He remains defenseless, and finally his body falls to the floor. What happened was just a waste of time. Hexion knows her rights well after the engagement. The bride has the right to move in with the groom, which means that from now on, she will live in his residence. Kieran shouts, asking how a stranger can make such decisions. He nods. In fact, he needs to ask permission. The appeal is addressed to Adele. It is up to her to decide where she wants to live, and in what conditions. She has the right to give any answer. The young man smiles a warm smile. He does not press in any way, and if she is burdened and by the movements of events, it will be possible to stop somewhere else. While the girl's brother is being restrained because he started to act up, the heroine is thinking, and they are waiting for an answer from her about how it would be more convenient for her. Karen asks to be taken away. Her father screams in fear. For the Duke, this is a great honor. He extends his hand and asks to follow him. Before leaving the room, the girl smiles, her face betraying pretense, and she thanks everyone for everything they have done for her over the years of her life. Vita doesn't want to remain silent. One day you both will regret the way you treat me. There is bile in his voice. He really thinks so. Adele no longer wants to sit with her tail between her legs. It is his lordship who does not know his place. Kieran intervenes again, asking if his sister really plans to agree. The woman seemed to have become stupid. She knew nothing about Milatrio. No matter how much the young man looked, he could not discern his brother's manners. Get out of the way. The young man orders Adele to stop. He calls her by her real name. She tells the truth when she believes that any choice would be much better than staying in Wit's residence. Someone like Quarren has no right to dictate anything. He should keep quiet and step back. Things have gone too far. Milatrio promises to send invitations on the wedding day, but doubts the family will be able to attend. In the corridor, the two encounter the Duke's wife, and this will end the ill-fated relationship. No more pain. The lady turns to her mother, as she wished. She will finally disappear from Wit's life. They will never see each other again. The brunette turns around and asks again in surprise, but receives no answer, and the couple leaves the estate, heading out into the street. The young man puts the girl on a horse and asks if she lived in that room or was locked up. It turns out that she was locked up there as a punishment since childhood. The place was filled with dirt and deprived of light, which meant that the abuse had begun a long time ago. After the last meeting, Adele's face had noticeably become haggard. Hexion cannot help but take care of the lady in his estate. She will be fed well, 3 times a day, and will even be allowed to eat during tea time. The beauty is not used to it, so she doubts that she will be able to eat. The best option is to eat food very little by little, giving her body time to get used to it. The conversation turns to Kieran. He tells her his real name, which, as it turns out, the heroine told him as a child, not expecting the man to remember. The Duke was sorry that he was not the only one who had access to the truth. Although a name was only one of many ways to address someone, the lady did not think that there was any importance in this. When the name Karen comes up, Adele remembers finding the diary of the Duke's real daughter while she was locked in her room. The girl wrote notes while dying from Carlette's illness. There were notes about pain and suffering, and thanks to the fairy's gift, it was possible to read a lot of them. even in the dark. The young man nods, imagining what kind of records are there. The deceased must have been in bad shape, since the disease progresses quickly. The recordings did not frighten the beauty, but Hexian noticed that her face looked as if there was anxiety hidden inside. Her heart was probably filled with pity, but not much. Adele has her own problems. Finally, they arrive at the residence. This place has a huge territory, although it is located far from the city. The place is quite secluded, but it is also nice to meet random passers-by. The young man is not sure whether the girl will like it, but most likely she will find it cozy. The butler meets the lord, who left promising to choose a wedding date, but returned immediately with his future wife, all due to unforeseen circumstances. They help the beauty off the horse. She asks to call her Karen. There is a smile on her face, although inside the feelings are completely different. The fact that the escape from the Duke ended successfully means nothing. It is impossible to escape the name of Wit's dead daughter. It will be forever. The butler introduces himself. His name is Orlando. It is a great honor for me to meet you. After which the old man bows respectfully. With all due respect, memory gets worse with age. A man won't be able to remember a name. You need to come up with something simpler. Without any pressure, the butler asks you to choose a name or nickname to call the new mistress. The girl suggests Adele, but she seems unsure if it bothers her so much. She would only call her that when they were alone. The man knows how to anticipate thoughts, and is also quite kind, which makes one feel warm inside, and the miss thanks you for contacting her. The Duke announces that the engagement is about to take place, and the assistant is asked to make sure that the Duchess feels as comfortable as possible. It's time to go to the new room. Militrio says that first of all it's worth resting. They will meet when everything is ready. The woman suddenly realizes that she is in her nightgown all the time. She has been locked up for a week without washing. Orlando is asked to prepare the bathroom. The butler nods. I will assign you a maid. It will be easier for them if someone looks after the lady. Soon the two find themselves in front of the doors to the chambers. The gentleman spent a lot of time preparing. No one knows if the interior is appropriate, but everything looks nice enough. The green-haired one doesn't understand. No one knew that she would arrive before the wedding. Militrio ordered the room to be taken care of every day. He waited until the heroine got bored and ran away, while the assistant took a responsible approach to carrying out the order. The maid should arrive within 10 minutes. For any requests you can contact her, or Orlando directly. He doesn't mind. The old man asks not to limit herself in words. The Duchess can speak as her heart desires. This is a hint that she needs to communicate informally. The lady is not used to it, but no one is rushing her. The adaptation period is quite difficult. The Duke's chosen one will become an excellent hostess, no matter what. The realization warms her heart. She no longer has to be a replacement for the Duke's daughter, and his puppet the woman promises that she will work hard. After the bath, the beauty feels much more alive. The maids in the estate are cheerful. Freya and Julie cannot compare with Bella. Remembering what happened, the heroine realizes that she didn't take anything with her. She would have needed to collect her things, at least for the first time. There was a knock on the door, and Militrio announced that the food was ready. The young man himself came to say this, without even calling the servants. Of course, the hero wanted to come himself, because he feels better when he is nearby. The lady does nothing, but even her simple presence improves the situation. The lady hadn't asked before, but she wanted to know where her future husband's room was. It turned out that it was on the first floor, not the second, because he was noisy. There is a lot of food on the table. The girl sits down and realizes that the young man even wears gloves. She thought that he would not be home. The young man doesn't see anything strange. Of course, he's not entirely comfortable, but if he takes it off, it will cause discomfort for other people in the estate. Many people work in the house only because of the high wages, and not because they themselves want to be on the territory. Unfortunately, this is considered true. It's still hard to believe. The table is beautifully set, and there are a variety of dishes. The servants wouldn't try so hard if they didn't love their master. The young man should trust people more. The brunette asks if the lady needs anything. He is perceptive, because they did not take any things with them. Nod, I think we need to send someone for supplies. The man shakes his head. He will not return the reminder of the wits, but will buy everything new. The beauty cannot accept the gift. She already owes so much. The hero calmly asks to accept what he gives, because with wealth one can get everything except medicine for the illness from which Carlette suffers. The girl asks in surprise if the young man's condition has worsened. He nods. This is one of the reasons why he was so eager to meet Adele, and preferably as soon as possible. The man blames himself for arriving too late. He didn't know the beauty's situation, and would have come earlier to rescue her. Until this moment, the beauty had not thought about his condition, although she should have, but it no longer matters. They are close. Everything will be fine. Lunch ends. The beauty says that she will go and rest. Eventually a thought flashes through her head. but it immediately disappears into the fog. It seems that it was important. He feels ill, he needs to get to the room quickly, but not take medication, because after them the pain quickly returns. The medicine only makes the illness worse. The young man felt fine, but as soon as Adele leaves, he feels ill. The girl looks out the window. Night has fallen. The pillow smells of the sun and it's nice. The gentleman really spent a lot of time arranging it, so that the lady would like everything. Despite his calm, Hexion himself felt uncomfortable even in his own home. It seemed like he looked pale, although this may not be true. The notebook with the translations was left in another place, but the woman roughly remembers the notes from the second obelisk. The more she thinks, the more she forgets later. She will have to discuss the details with the Duke. The woman is about to go get a drink of water. She goes down herself so as not to disturb the maid. Something strange is heard. The corridor is empty, but this does not give her peace. It seems that the whole problem is with Hexion. Without thinking twice, the lady discovered his room. Groans are heard from behind the door. It is scary that he is experiencing unbearable pain. Knocking gently, the girl asks if he needs help, but there is silence in response. But this does not mean that she should leave the guy in a terrible state. The girl comes inside and makes sure that the young man is really ill. Carefully sitting down next to him, she looks into his face, but her attention is drawn to something else. The Duke is clutching a brush in his hands. It was given to him during the competition, and it is strange that it remains in the knight's possession. The beauty doesn't think it will help, but it seems the gentleman held onto the thing every time he felt pain. He could have asked for help, but he didn't. Hand touches palm. The woman thinks about how much she wants to fix everything. Hexion promised to help Adele. He can't just die. In his sleep, the young man sees a dream in which he understands that he should have taken his future wife immediately. Waiting until the preparations were completed would have been very foolish. A servant rushes in and tells him something terrible. Jumping on his horse, he rushes. His body seems to fall apart, but he must continue to move forward. He has a mantra in his head that he needs to save someone, but still not understanding what happened. Hexion opens his eyes, sits up in bed and feels a presence. Adele is sitting nearby on a chair at night. The hero was unable to lock the door. They found him in a terrible state, and probably simply wanted to provide the necessary help. The healing ability that the lady acquired in the forest allows her to breathe calmly without experiencing any pain. It's amazing. The young man touches her cheek with his hand. It must have been hard to sit next to her all night. The Duchess couldn't even rest, and that was completely wrong. The girl woke up and raised her head, realizing that they were too close. The hero had to get closer, since they hadn't heard him the first time. Of course the lady is sorry. She didn't want to come in without permission. The Duke wants to thank her and asks for forgiveness for showing weakness. He was found in a disgusting state. There is nothing strange about the attack. The hero is just in pain. He should have come to Adele, because next to her, as he said, it becomes a little easier. The young man may be dependent. Vita may become a sweet candy for him, receiving which he will want even more happiness. One day it will be necessary to let Karen go. The master has no right to drag her down with him. No matter what happens, he will keep his promise and do it in the best possible way. In order not to continue the conversation, but the hero changes the subject. He should go to the capital. He needs to meet with the emperor, resolve issues concerning the Duchess. The maiden remembers that the ruler treats his son badly. She hopes that nothing happens to her future husband on the way to the capital, and everything will be fine. If everything goes well, they will be able to return in the evening, but if not, the trip will take more than a few days. But even so, there is no need to worry. The knights and Orlando will take care of Karen. The green-haired girl is not concerned about her well-being. She simply does not know what the hero will feel when he finds himself in another place, so far away from her. Sitting closer, the brunette asks to listen to one request. He thinks that this will be much more effective than simple touches of the hand. The young man wants to hug, at least once, to check his condition. Adele blushes, but has no choice but to agree. Gently embracing the Duchess, the man feels a surge of warmth spreading throughout his weak body, as if it were being filled with unprecedented energy. The emperor is informed that the archduke will visit the palace. What is interesting is that the medicine has long since run out, but he is visiting the place for a completely different reason. Hexion is constantly being watched. The ruler is eagerly awaiting what will be prepared for him. It will surely be something new. Freya meets Milady. The maid was surprised when she never found anything in the room. It turns out that the mistress did not go for a walk, but to see her fiancé. The maids were worried, but now she can calm down. They have just prepared the bath. They take her there, and then help her in rest. There was a feeling of awkwardness in the room. Adele needed to know the details of the trip. She asked how long the owner of the estate stayed when he went to the ruler's castle. Sometimes the young man returns on the same day. Sometimes it takes a month. Once the father allowed Karen to appear before the emperor, but only after learning the proper manners. The man said that the girl was not bad. But that was all he said then in his cold tone, giving the little girl a look as if he was evaluating her for sale. Freya calls my lady, she asks a counter-question, namely, what does the woman think about my lord? She does not mean anything strange, it's just that some people have erroneous judgments. The owner is sensitive and attentive, his illness is not the least bit contagious, there is nothing to worry about, the man is handsome and super elegant. Can't hold back, the heroine smiles softly and laughs. The Duke is surrounded by good people, now she can rest easy, because he won't disappear, the house workers are providing support. Soon it's time for food. The brunette is glad that the lady has come down and suggests they start eating before the dishes are completely cold, otherwise it won't be tasty. The hero is worried whether the girl is tired, because she did not get enough sleep. In any case, she could not fall asleep for another reason. Too many thoughts accumulated in her head. We're talking about the second obelisk, or rather, the more interesting part. The notebook ended up in the duchy, but the contents of the slab were imprinted in my memory, so it's not a problem. There's a strange atmosphere in the room. It is possible that the gentleman will discover the notebook and report everything to the emperor. It is important to understand what information is there. Perhaps the obelisk says something that His Majesty should not know under any circumstances. The beauty shrugs her shoulders. In any case, these are just guesses, but there is something interesting. The stone was inscribed with information about the past, specifically about an epidemic with symptoms similar to Carlet's, which, according to records, was associated with the first emperor. Part 1, depicted, and not entirely important, is about an old tree in the forest, from which a strange cry was heard wanting to know the truth. It was cut down. Even on the first tombstone, something was mentioned that slips into the real world. When the country was engulfed by an epidemic, the fame of one man began to rise sharply. The first emperor was Alba Vestia. He claimed to have been sent by God, and began to cure the epidemic. He had a great fame and ledge, and say that even the sun followed him. The Duke knows that there is a connection between the illness and the king. When he was brought to the castle, he escaped and wandered the streets for 2 weeks. When the knights captured the boy, they gave him poison, a strange liquid that turned into smoke when opened, which penetrated the body. The woman groans. It was that bottle that caused the illness, which means the gentleman has something that can infect anyone. He alone has a means that replaces development. All who rebelled against him were forcibly infected, and they became submissive and did not try to rebel. Having control over the disease, the ruler uses it as an achievement. The maiden begins to understand that the real Karen could well have died because of this, so that Vita would submit. The obelisk contains information about Carlet, and if this is true, then the next tombstone may contain the full disclosure of the great secret. The location is already marked. After the master returns, the couple will go in search. The woman does not know if her groom will be okay, because he goes to the snake's lair. Smiling, the hero assures that he will try to return as soon as possible, just for the sake of Adela's peace of mind. She shouldn't worry. His lordship arrived at the castle quite quickly, despite the amount of decorations. A suffocating aura and a feeling of anxiety reigns inside, but the guy's condition is much better, because this time he has a mission. In the corridor, the young man is met by a white-haired man. He snorts, noting that he knew about the appearance of a pathetic bastard. It can be felt from 3 miles away. The Duke has probably arrived for medicine. Khalid does not change. The conversation is useless, but even despite this, the young man continues it. The blonde projects his inferiority complex onto those around him, in order to have at least some reason to inflate his own ego. No wonder. It would be better to tell His Majesty directly and ask him to pay attention to his own son. His helplessness even makes one feel a little sorry. The man insults the newcomer, but he again finds an answer, advising him to be careful with his expressions. Didn't you become the heir thanks to your unrivaled intelligence? The Duke does not want the young man to lose his head and position, because of ordinary jealousy. After the words thrown out, he leaves, not wanting to continue. No matter how much the blonde hated the master, his words were not empty words, because everyone who stood in his way was executed. The father was obsessed with the bastard, while the pleasures of the throne did not interest him. The brunette tries to calm himself down. His task is too important. He can't afford any unnecessary mistakes. Sticking to the plan is the whole point. Winning favor isn't easy. He'll have to behave nicely. Upon entering the throne room, the young man immediately meets his master. The war in the north is over, but the Duke's merits are still well known, all thanks to the Emperor's kindness. Balin is asked to bring tea. Sitting down, the king notices an improvement in his condition. His son looks rested. He does whatever he wants, but taking the Duke's daughter is perhaps too much. It turned out that Vita arrived earlier, in order to ask for the girl to be returned to him. It does not seem that the ruler is dissatisfied. He is simply checking the level of subordination. The young man asks if they will believe him if he tells them about love at first sight. Adele is the first who is not afraid of him, despite all the bad rumors that circulate throughout the kingdom. Man will never be able to forget the moment of their first meeting. That touch and smile will forever be imprinted in his memory. The emperor chuckles. How unexpected. His Majesty may not allow it, but the hero wishes to ask for approval for the engagement, so that they can continue to live together in the Duke's residence. This is a mutual desire. In any case, the gentleman planned to bring the Duchess and his son together. It doesn't matter whether it happened earlier. What's more important is that this is the first time my son has asked for something. I'm flattered. Just the word itself is disgusting, but one cannot show it. The ruler promises that he will organize a ball and announce the engagement. He wants to see the Duke and his daughter. The brunette is worried that the event will be scary for Adele, so he asks for a quiet engagement. Of course, he has refused. The date for the ball will soon be chosen, at which they will see whether Adele is worthy of the title of Archduchess. The man suddenly reaches forward, pulls off his glove and chuckles. His condition is not getting worse. It remains stable, and it is noticeable. He has not shown his illness to the lady yet. The emperor explains that since the Duke is going to marry, he is obliged to show such things. The bride could run away on the first night. This would be truly terrible news. The young man believes that the girl has nowhere to run. He heard from the Duke that she was incredibly happy when she received an invitation to change her home to another. They are not suitable for each other, although it is not clear whether the beauty will place her hopes on a man. Having learned about the illness, the gentleman asks when the medicine was last taken, and says that in the morning. Balani is asked to leave, and Hexion will remain in the estate for a little while longer. If this is true, the effect of the pills should wear off soon. It is starting to hurt. The father suggests they talk calmly. They have not spoken for a long time. Dell starts to worry. About 2 days have passed. The guy still hasn't returned, and she doesn't understand how long she will have to wait. It's scary to think that if the emperor can control Carlette, he can also worsen Hexion's condition. This cannot be allowed, but one can only hope for safety. Maid appeared on the balcony and offered her a snack. The mistress was surprised, as she had recently eaten and consumed a wonderful dessert. 2 hours have passed since the beauty ate. Time flies quite quickly. The maid nods. The cookies were prepared especially for tea. The Duchess notes with embarrassment that she has gained a little weight, which is good news for the others, as the lady always seemed rather thin. Sitting in front of the table, the girl looks sadly to the side, starting to worry that she didn't like something. It turns out that she is worried about some things concerning his lordship. The problem is that when she left the house, the lady left something important with the Duke, and now she can't calm down and breathe a sigh of relief. The woman is worried because if someone finds the item, it could bring trouble at any cost. She must return the item and take it with her. The maid offers to help, but it is too dangerous to go to the estate. Huron is still there, and the father is on guard. If anyone comes there, it will lead to a huge problem. You could ask Jin, but it's impossible to explain that you need to go to the house and steal the thing. You need to share the information from the obelisk with him, but first, you should consult with Hexion. The maid carefully advises him to stop losing himself in his thoughts, because if this continues, the anxiety will only increase. It is better to place the library in the basement. It will be great to change the scenery. There are a lot of different books there, even those that are really rare, those that there are not more than 10 of in the world. The Duke, however, loves to read books, and he allows his servants to do the same, as long as they follow the rules. The master is a truly generous man. There is no arguing with that. For the sake of Mil 8 Rio, the servants are ready to do absolutely anything, and the lady, whom he values so much, is no less important. The girl smiles. She is once again convinced that everyone really cares about the young man. Hexion can feel calm and free. He should quickly return home. The woman asks Freya to see her off as soon as possible. Walking down the corridor, the beauty hears a noise down below, near the entrance. The butler explains to someone that he has orders not to let anyone in. The woman understands that she sees Curran. He shouts that he needs to discuss something important with his sister. It cannot be postponed any further. The brunette assures the lady that there is no point in going down. Orlando will sort everything out. It is worth waiting until the situation improves. In response, the girl calmly refuses. This man will not leave until he achieves his goal. Curran will continue to rage until someone comes down to him. The woman walks forward and asks what her brother is doing at the Duke's estate. Displeasure is visible in his eyes, and the man snorts. A man cannot help but notice that the beauty is different. She imagines herself to be someone unknown. It becomes difficult to recognize her true personality. Apparently, the beauty lives peacefully. having no idea what this place is. She must understand that she is next to a monster. The girl asks you not to talk nonsense. The brunette doesn't want to listen to absurdity, continuing to look down on others. You remain the same empty shell. Again the lady orders him to leave, ending the performance, and he mentions his father, saying that if he continues to drag out time, his anger will not be dealt with. That place is not a home, but in that case, Huron does not understand whether the Milate Rio estate is a home, not the Duke, but Vita, who allowed Adele to live in the role of a noblewoman. The man spent a lot of time raising the lady, managing her life as if it were his own ability, but she has no intention of giving up her life again. Instead of returning to the estate and waiting for death, the girl will wander the streets, and if necessary, it will be easier for her to do even that. Huron, all this time, seemed to live in a fog. He asks why his sister speaks like that. Her gaze expresses all the anger and hatred. It is amazing. Being Wit's legitimate child, the brother would never understand what the girl had to go through. She had no choice. Even if the emperor was the initiator of that incident in the future, the Duke could not help but have a hand in it. The woman does not intend to tolerate rudeness any longer. She would like them to never see each other again. Even just seeing the enemy's face is already unbearable. Huron, he says, you are mistaken. I was never part of the family. That only applied to Paris. The brother and sister remained only temporary pawns. The lady did not even know that. The young man thought that they were in the same situation. He wanted to tell the truth, but he could not believe that this would happen in front of the servants of Duke Milate Rio. If you think about it, Huron really doesn't look like a duke, although he does have similarities with the Duchess. Suddenly a scream is heard. The man uses force and throws Orlando aside. The next thing the man does is order you to come down, or he will destroy the whole house. Nothing goes as he plans. This can't help but irritate you. The door opens. Milate Rio enters. He does not understand how the Duke cannot restrain his son. Vita had no right to break into someone else's house, causing chaos. Adele is asked if everything is okay with her. Given the current situation, it is clear what happened. Orlando manages to come to his senses. Freya helps him up. Desperate to get inside, the brunette apparently simply broke into the house, and when they tried to stop him, he began to behave like someone who is not quite adequate. Rio throws the man aside. He dared to invade his house while the owner was away, to attack his people. Is everyone in the Duchy of Vita really that cowardly? The father ran to complain to the castle, and his son came to Hexion. Magic was gathering around. It became clear that Huron was ready to attack. He would not wait any longer. The woman shouts at the man to dodge. At the last moment, he does so and is surprised. Magic cannot be seen with human eyes, but Adele succeeded. Just like that time, everything turned against him. Huron is sure that the girl knows about his strength. He asks how she found out. It seems that he is not worried that there was an attempted attack. It is obvious that the man has no manners, since even after being asked, he is not going to leave. Perhaps he should simply be killed so as not to interfere. Hexion is asked to release the girl's brother. He obeys. He should not react so strongly. The emperor approved the engagement. Outsiders can no longer interfere. The brunette will have to leave the estate, but if he doesn't listen, he will have to send an official complaint to the Duke next time. They won't let him go so easily. He leaves. The beauty is asked if she is okay. The answer is a nod, but Orlando was badly hit. Part of the wall also collapsed. The woman is truly sorry, but in reality, she has nothing to apologize for. It is the Duke who will apologize for frightening the beauty, her face turning scarlet. The lady gets close to the young man's face, asking what hurts him. His temperature rises, and cold sweat appears on his face. The brunette cannot say that it is not because of the illness, but because of Adele. Since Orlando is wounded and the Duke is unwell, they should rest. Freya promises that she will prepare rooms for rest. The butler tries to refuse, but no one asks him. The lady has no business. Hexion asks to stay next to her. It will be much better than resting alone. The maiden agrees, so she will wait until the young man changes clothes and returns. The woman was worried whether the hero had eaten anything, but she herself had managed to have a snack several times, all thanks to Freya's caring treatment. The maid said that she would notify everyone in the kitchen to prepare the food. She was very happy, as she thought, my lady is an amazing person. You still have to look for such. Usually, when returning from the emperor, the master was always very irritable. He was so tense that even the butler could not approach him, but everything changed. The man doesn't eat food, always after returning. He has no appetite, however. Everything is changed again. In the company of his future wife, He will definitely not refuse food. Lunch will be on the terrace. The brunette changed his clothes. He comes out to the girl and says that he feels better. His face is still a little pale. He has to take off his glove to check the condition of his hand. The green-haired woman is worried that the man is not sleeping or eating well. She asks if everything went well during his stay in the imperial palace. The answer is yes. Adele sees that this is a lie. The truth is written all over her face. The emperor approved the engagement on one condition. He knows that it will be burdensome, but he could not refuse. You have to ask a question, and the answer is surprising. The ruler wants to hold a banquet in the palace, where he will announce the engagement. There will be a lot of people there, because the event is of a huge scale. The couple must be present at the castle. They will have to greet the emperor. Anxiety is written on the face, however. The lady promises that she will begin preparations as soon as the date is known. The duke is a little worried. He asks if the beauty will be okay. Besides the gentleman, she will have to meet Vita there. The girl hopes for the best. She will be next to Mil Atrio. Everything will be fine. Despite the request, the lady does not want to be the only one who receives support, so if a man needs something, he can safely ask. Everything will be fulfilled. The magic gently penetrates under the hardened skin, and it becomes noticeable that the young man's condition has improved. His temperature is also normalizing, and a snack must be ready. Although the Duchess can alleviate the symptoms of the illness, only complete rest will relieve the accumulated stress within. Hexion does not take good care of his body, and this needs to be corrected. Adele starts the conversation. She is worried, because they are bound by a promise. Confusion is reflected on her face. He does not understand why this topic came up so unexpectedly. The young man bows his head and nods. The contract can be terminated whenever the soul desires. He understands that he no longer deserves trust. Their attitude towards him has changed. The gentleman asks to tell him where he went wrong so as to avoid problems next time. He thinks that the lady has decided to break off the engagement and leave. The heroine's face reflects a question. She doesn't understand why he suddenly thought the agreement would be cancelled. The relationship isn't over yet. She's just trying to show concern. Sometimes a guy is thinking in a completely wrong direction, and a woman decides to make fun of him by asking if he is intentionally asking her for a breakup in order to get rid of her as soon as possible. Waving his hands, the young man assures that this is absolutely not true. Adele is the one he needs. It would be good if she stayed by his side forever. That would be right. The brunette realizes that he has said too much and is trying to justify himself. His face has turned red again. If this continues, his temperature will rise, even after it has been brought down. The woman needs to take action. She didn't want to ask after all. Hexion is an important person to her. She doesn't want him to be in danger. The young man will not have to bear the entire burden alone if he feels unwell. It is necessary to talk about it. Adele will always be happy to help, and to the fullest extent. If it makes things easier just by being nearby, the maiden promises that she will do as asked. Hexion promises that he will not fight the disease alone. Night fell. The Duke woke up. He saw that his bride was sleeping next to him again. He asked her to come back to him when it got dark, but she didn't listen again, and didn't even climb onto the bed. It was uncomfortable for her to sleep on a chair. The young man touches the lady, realizing that his fingers can move. This palm can be felt, and for the first time in many years, this cannot but surprise. Of course, this cannot be considered a complete cure, but there have never been such significant improvements. Adele performed a miracle. She did it, and continues to try. Everything inside is turning upside down. The gentleman does not understand when this began. He does not understand why he is shaving and touching the hand that he used to casually grab. He is afraid of the feelings that will appear later. Those who were close always died or suffered. For the one who tries to break free from her own shackles, the curse of Mil Atrio will bring even greater misfortune. It would be good if the lady were happier than she is at present. That would be enough for the man from another world, which he could not wish for. The rays of light penetrate into the room. The girl is lying in bed, and the young man, who has already gotten up, asks if he should close the curtains so that it would be a little better and not so bright. Looking around, the lady realizes that she is not in her room. The realization comes quite quickly. She is not in her room. She fell asleep again sitting next to the Duke's bed. The man suggests that next time the lady should lie down next to him if she suddenly feels tired, and the brunette notices that he feels better. All thanks to the healing. The young man managed to forget that he was in the imperial palace. His body feels much better, therefore, they should go in search of the third obelisk. The lady decides that this is not the best way to spend time. Just yesterday, the hero had problems, at least for a day or two, but he should rest and try to fully recover. Brunette states that they don't have much time, since the banquet may be scheduled for next week. They need to find out what connects the Emperor with Carlet's illness. The green-haired girl nods, though there's no other choice but to continue traveling carefully, without overexerting herself. The Duke suggests leaving after breakfast. The man is going to pack some sandwiches for the trip, but not as many as last time. The lady has nothing to wear. She needs something light to make it easier to move through the forest. In honor of this day, I prepared clothes in advance. It turns out that from the first day the Duchess arrived, her future husband began preparing. He approached it thoroughly. Only then did the lady realize that she had indeed worn many different looks, and that the size was the same. She asked how the man knew her measurements. I reproduced everything according to my memories with hugs. The Duke understands that the phrase sounds frightening and, blushing, justifies himself, saying that he had no strange intentions, he only wanted the best. Soon Freya brought the clothes, and the lady got dressed. Everything fit her perfectly. For the first time she wore real trousers. They are really very comfortable to move in. Julie put her pen and notebook in her purse. She will take it to the horse. The owner is talking to the butler. It seems that they need to reduce the amount of luggage, because there is too much of it. The Duke believes that even the strongest horse cannot carry everything, but the butler replies that he packed only what might be needed on the trip. There is nothing unnecessary, but this way there will be no difficulties on the road. Having descended, the lady listens to the conversation. If they have to stay in the forest longer, the man folded the tent. The lady intervenes. They will not linger. They will return by evening. The green-haired girl remembers how they once spent the whole night under the open sky. She doesn't need to hear a reminder of the past, because it becomes a little unpleasant. Orlando is asked to prepare a wool blanket. Nothing more, he agrees, but cannot help but ask why the two are so red. There is no answer. Very soon the two set off on a hike. The girl remarks how good it is that there is not so much luggage. The horse is not so heavy, considering that there are two people on it instead of one. There is a discussion about staying overnight, but then a familiar voice is heard asking where they are going in such a hurry. Kieran is standing ahead on the road. The man calmly states that he wanted to take a walk. They are not on the Archduke's property, so he does not need to explain the reason. He is not prohibited from moving through the forest. Milate Rio snorts with displeasure. The territory is precisely within his domain. The brunette should clear out and stay out of the way. They are going on a date, and Adele's brother's behavior is unacceptable. It's best to back off and stop interfering in the couple's life. Calling the young man brother in Huro makes him much angrier. After all, it's too much. The Duke doesn't react to Kieran's cries. He smiles. After all, your sister and I are already engaged. It's true, no matter what their relationship is. Vita is the brother, and Hinlason Maid's law. To avoid further conversation, the young man makes the horse move faster. Despite this, the man follows them. Karen's brother is truly an annoying character. Very soon, they will have to get off and move through the forest on foot. It is better to sort this out quickly, so that there are no problems. The brunette considers Kieran to be clingy, considering that he seemed to have been waiting for the couple since the evening. Stopping, the man helps Adele down. From this place they will go in the direction of a clock. The annoying man appears next to him again. Where are you even going? Kieran snorts in displeasure, but is ignored, repeating again that the Duke decided to take a walk. Nothing more. Milate Rio suggests getting rid of the man. The lady objects. While they move through the forest, they can decide what to do next. After a while, it becomes clear that the situation is strange. They were going in the right direction, but even after minutes, they still couldn't find anything, not even any clues. Bending down to pick up a stone, Hexion decides to leave marks on the ground himself. Kieran's voice is heard behind him, asking what his companions are looking for. Unable to bear it, the lady starts screaming. She doesn't understand why she needs to drag herself after them. It's impossible to talk to the Duke because of her brother. His constant presence is noticeably disturbing. The young man shouts back, believing that since his sister doesn't show up at home, he has the right to follow her around. A stone flies past his face, hitting his cheek and leaving a mark. Hexion smiles. I just left a hint. The hero doesn't intend to restrain himself, but he won't use magic, so he tries to strike with his fist, which is immediately blocked. The brunette is irritated. He should have realized that there is no point in competing. The forces are unequal. If Kieran had understood, he wouldn't have behaved like a child. A young man would never receive the attention he so diligently seeks. Such things are no longer available to him. The Duke asks if his companion intends to continue hiding his feelings. Although he is glad about this, it is better to give in advance, rather than create unnecessary fuss that no one needs. Hexion gets hit sharply on the cheek. Vita is happy that he was able to land a blow, but he understands that it was no accident that they allowed him to do something like this, because now the lady rushes to her future husband in order to pity him. The brunette notices that he is also wounded, but no one pays attention to him. Snorting with displeasure, he throws the medicine to his sister. It is the best. After it there will be no trace of the wound left. It was time to move on. Kieran was still dragging behind. Milate Rio was looking around, They were walking in circles. Ahead they could see the tree they had already seen, and that same stone on the ground too. The brother speaks up. There are legends about the forest. No matter how long a person walks, he will remain in one place. He heard that once robbers tried to hide in the forest, nothing good ended. Before dawn, many of them disappeared, and a day later they appeared with frightened faces. It seemed like nonsense, but it became clear that something terrible had really happened to them. Before sunrise, the forest becomes different, more ominous. Rao notices that they need to set up camp and stay. He regrets. He should have taken a tent with him. Disgruntled voice is heard. Vita does not understand why they should stay until dawn. It is as if they agree to sit on the grass doing nothing. The brunette smiles and confidently explains that they have a warm blanket, but his brother, Law, will have to settle down on the ground. It's getting dark outside. The boys have already set up camp and lit a fire. Huron wonders what will happen if the father finds out where his daughter is. He doesn't understand why the girl didn't tell him anything, even though she's not obligated to. The young man himself doesn't know what to do. He hasn't been home for a long time and can't even ask the butler, because it's not an option to turn back. It seemed that he would be able to return a little earlier. However, the situation turned upside down. Everything changed. And otherwise, the hero would have definitely packed his things and taken the horse. The lady remembers the animal's corpse. She asks why they planted the bag on her, and immediately the hero's face lights up with joy. He thought that the gift was thrown away without looking. The man believes he is right. He provided a rare white wolf. He just needed to wash it and rejoice. Not wanting to listen to nonsense, the lady lay down to finally go to sleep. The Duke, realizing that the beauty is tired, promises that she will sit quietly, and she will be angry with him. Stop butting in where you are not wanted. Do you think I don't know that you are terrible? The brunette chuckles. He finds the perfect answer. It would be worth considering what made the Duchess run away from her family. It certainly wasn't a good attitude. A sharp sound distracts. Adele immediately jumps up. It seems that the forest is beginning to change. What is expected before dawn is happening. A mysterious road is visible ahead. Energy of unclear origin fills the entire path. There is a bright light all around. You should move forward while there is such an opportunity. The end is visible. Something strange is visible there. Between the bushes in the distance, a third stele appears. It was not seen in the light, but everything has changed. Coming closer, the group peers at the obelisk. Where there are signs that are visible only at night, they overlap the daytime ones, leaving a clear difference. The brunette asks if the inscriptions will be difficult to decipher, but Adele thinks that this is not the case. They glow brightly enough that they should be easy to read. The road is blocked again. Huron didn't have time to follow the couple ahead. Trio smiles. He is happy that the forest itself allowed him to get rid of the nuisance. The fairy's magic is amazing. The lady is happy that the situation has not reached the point of absurdity. She is not worried. All that remains is to decipher. It is time to get down to the task. Morning comes quite unnoticed. The green-haired girl has almost finished the translation. There was nothing important in the daytime symbols. It says that the area is not dangerous. The obelisk indicates the location of the fourth stele, stating that one should be especially careful, but with what exactly is not indicated, so it remains a mystery. The stone continues by saying that the illness being spoken of is scarlet, and its symptoms are absolutely identical to the one the Duke himself suffered from. It contains a detailed description of the disease, while, as they believe in the Empire, there is a legend that the disease took place even before the creation of the state. The scripture tells of a young hero who lived in the Old Kingdom. He accomplished many feats, for which he was called the guardian of his country. The hero of the legend is none other than Light. He had a friend with whom he went to the battlefield. His name is Alba Bestia, a famous man. The girl reads the most important thing. Something strange happened to the man. As soon as they managed to free something from the forest, looking at some words, Light was a woman. The Duke is surprised. Something like this, even for their time, is a fairy tale, which is why they call it one of a kind. There are no others like it. It's nice to know that Light is special. She's a truly amazing person, because then and now, masculine strength was valued above all else. At that time, the woman often wandered through the forest, tired of curious glances and constant battles, but news of what happened from Alba reached even the village. The epidemic, which could only be cured by prayer and blessing, had already spread throughout the capital, and was nicknamed God's wrath. It was believed that those who believed in God would never get sick with it. Even aristocrats who accused their master of heresy became infected during interrogation. The enemy was also surprised by the incredible ability to heal people in a short time. Light knew her friend as a modest and quiet person, but she never saw him as a liar. Feeling that something was wrong, the lady visited Alba, who had been in the forest all this time, and noticed that the young man had changed a lot and occupied a high position. The man with whom the girl was on the battlefield, and the one in front of her are different people. The blue-side man, smiling, asked to tell how his friend had been doing all this time. The lady asks how Beast is. She asks if he can really cure illness. The answer is strange, smiling. The young man nods. The blonde can do anything he wants, because he has received God's power. It is capable of putting into his hands not only the country, but the whole world. He, as a low-ranking priest, has risen quite high. The blonde man notes that he needs a hero who will help make his dreams come true. Wuxen Light has suffered enough. It's time to change the situation. The young man's eyes glow scarlet as he continues to speak, as if putting her into a trance. He offers to become gods together, but a refusal is heard because the girl clearly sees the dark aura. It's a pity that the lady is not on the side of truth, but if she changes her mind, she can always return to the castle. The woman feels offended. They met after some time, and the conversation ended terribly. The beauty wanted to quickly run away into the forest. To find out what had changed, she had an uneasy feeling, and the fact that Alba had changed forever made her sad. Adele jerks sharply. She doesn't understand why, but tears are flowing from her eyes. In response to the Duke's question, she only shrugs her shoulders. These are not her feelings, but the memories touch her soul. The heart feels pain when best friends, who have been through a lot together, stop communicating. Tears can be associated with the obelisk. It is not entirely clear what to do. Perhaps by experiencing other people's emotions, Karen will repress her own. She looks tired, so she should be helped. The young man leans towards Adele and kisses her on the head. The girl immediately comes to her senses, asking why the man did this, her face blushing slightly. The brunette explains that he wanted to evoke a different reaction, to give her a little support. He asks if the woman wants to try to get closer. Positive response triggers a reaction. Leaning closer, the man kisses the girl's lips. A second later, everything changes, but nothing around him matters anymore. Pulling away, the hero asks if Vita's okay and she nods. The tears have stopped. That's good. All that's left is to find the way back. The fairy's voice is heard. She didn't know that people like to kiss, and she notices that the smell of illness has diminished. The power that is felt from the beauty is much stronger. This is not the power that Stella can simply give. This isn't the most ordinary person in front of her. The obelisk's abilities have some effect. The fairy learned the details about healing from a more experienced person. Close contact is needed for improvements, but given her love, there won't be any problems. It doesn't matter that nothing like this has happened between the couple yet. The advice is still good. The baby knows how to get out. With the advent of day, the road appears on its own. The beauty, having the power of the obelisk, will see the passage as soon as she gets closer. She and the fairy have not seen each other for a long time, but this is no reason to linger for communication. The road back is noticeably shorter. Very soon to get back to the clearing. In front of them they see Kieran, which makes them surprised. The man doesn't see the problem, because he just wanted to take a walk, so he stayed where he was. They ignored him, so there was nothing left to do but constantly be nearby. The young man was planning to go for a walk, but for some reason he started to drag behind Karen and Hexion. The Duke prepared his horse and said that they could set off. Sudden movement. People in black emerge from the bushes. They wound Kieran, declaring that no one should dare approach the obelisks. Ignoring them won't help, otherwise next time it will be worse. Magic appears in their hands. The Duke asks if the strangers know who they are dealing with. They continue to threaten without answering the question. The woman quickly realizes that these are not Vit's messengers, since they would not have tried to approach Kieran when they left. Just as unexpectedly as it came, the girl turns to her brother. The young man asked why the lady did not want to communicate with him. She did not trust him if he wanted to prove that he was not his father's messenger. He was obliged to do what he was asked to do. The man has one chance. There is anger in her voice, but he asks what they are talking about. In 2 days, they will meet in a fabric store. There the girl will give all the instructions. He does not understand, but in the end he agrees. Later, the Duke asks why Kieran was invited to the store. He won't leave the lady alone anyway, so she decides to use the opportunity and lure him over to her side. The lady needs an ally to retrieve the notebook from the Duke's estate. She will not allow him to see the pages, and besides, she has a protector. The man nods shyly and suggests going off to rest. They ask him if they can meet at the appointed time, and he nods. Closing the door to her room, Adele begins to remember the moment of the kiss. The Duke thinks about the same thing. He becomes more and more greedy towards the girl. The next morning the two set off in a carriage. The day flew by quickly. After returning from the forest, they were unable to have a normal conversation. The lady simply avoided looking at them. Naxian asks if everything is all right with Adele, and she assures that yes, they are almost there. From the outside, the place that the guild occupies is truly enormous. The lady has a friend from the guild, but she visited him only once. Almost at the entrance, they are met by Jin. He asks to go where there will be fewer prying eyes. Soon the hero reveals that he is the leader. The lady is very surprised. She knew that her friend looked like a rather high-ranking person, but in fact, she did not think that he was so important. The Duke is recognized immediately, because he is the son of the Emperor and Adele's future husband. The guild has information about everything. If the hero knew that the woman was alive, he would find her in no time. It seems that all the servants are dressed up only because of Hexion. Although this is to be expected from someone of such level, one has to ask about what is happening in the palace. Jin nods. Everyone knows that Milate Rio is suffering from an illness. The Emperor cares about him more than about his heir. If they know so well about him, then the reason for the visit is also clear. It turns out that this is not the case. Adele only mentions something related to betrayal. I wonder why the Emperor treats the Duke so well, whom he apparently does not like. It seems that only the ruler can give out the cure for the disease, so the Lord must want the rebellion more than anyone else. This was the case before, however. Karen became the new cure. The Emperor has no need for the country for a long time, so in order to save the Empire, Vita's help is needed. Jin agrees to provide support, but sets a condition: he cannot take Adele with him. The man does not want to lose the beauty again, however. She refuses. This is the only way to survive. She believes in the future that will be built. Nobody knows. The lady had to die to understand the truth. She needs to act for herself. She will repay for everything, including saving her from the alley. The young man should help with this. The head of the guild names a price of 1,000 gold tiles. The Duke is asked if he can afford such a sum. Adele is amazed. The prices are too high. Hexion has something else in mind. He's offering 2,000. It's important to understand that if the bet loses, the company will bear both the financial costs and the loss of employees. Jin agrees that the Emperor owns such a fortune that no nobleman has ever taken, and that, having successfully completed the operation, the man will receive more from his personal vault. The deal is considered complete. Various information and assistance of another kind will be needed. The red-haired one promises that he will make every effort to make everything work out. Still, there is a request to leave Adele on the territory. If she gets into trouble because of the case, Jin would like to take responsibility for her, at least in this way. The Emperor pays too much attention to the Archduke. He can easily switch to Karen. The engagement took place with the permission of the king, but if he feels threatened, he will immediately try to remove the lady. The brunette goes against the grain. It would be very strange if the lady suddenly disappeared from the estate. Besides, all the employees are loyal, and she has nothing to fear inside. She will be protected. Silenced for a moment, the young man notices that the Duke reeks of death. His keen sense of smell and sensitive eye indicate this, and that is why he senses great danger. The gentleman wants to be proven ready. He heard that Hexion is very strong, but he has not heard about whether he is loyal to his people. He will have to draw conclusions as things go along. Adele is dear to her old friend, but asking for something like that is too much. The red-haired one doesn't listen. He swings, but misses, because the opponent dodges. The girl decides to stop what is happening. She grabs a dessert from the table and throws it at the man. She asked for help, not protection. You can't decide for her. Adele is no longer a little girl. It is not so easy to decide, to grab a sword and attack others. Continuing to behave like this, the head of the guild pushes her to decide to stop communicating. The appeal goes to Hexion. The girl in the forest remains silent, but it is clear that a fist and a sword are completely different things. That time he did it on purpose. The sincerity lies in the fact that the lady does not want to create more problems. She is sad to see Jean and Milade Rio arguing. She asks to sit down and talk calmly. Before leaving the guild, the leader reminds his friend that the Archduke is dangerous. He doesn't put pressure on her, but wants to let her know that she always has somewhere to go if something goes wrong. In the evening, it's time to rest. 2 days were too busy. On the way back, Hexion looked pale. He hadn't even eaten properly, although he didn't invite me into his room, saying that he was fine. The lady understands that this won't work. She gets up. She needs to go down to check on him. There is silence in the corridor. The absence of sounds is a good sign. As soon as the door opens, a strong smell of alcohol hits your nose. There is a whole pile of bottles of wine on the table. It is not clear how much the man managed to drink. He is sick, but did not pay any attention to it. Adele comes closer and asks worriedly what happened. Even at dinner, she noticed that the guy was feeling unwell. Why didn't you call me if it was so difficult for you? My gaze turns downwards. I remember Jin's words. He was right. While the lady is nearby, she is always in danger. You can't constantly rely on help. It would be wrong.